I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love, you say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna try, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. I don't know what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love.
Welcome everyone. Let's watch Comic Con. This is Baz. We are back again.
Comics, gaming, and entertainment strikes but once a year, and this year IGN is proud to be collaborating with San Diego Comic-Con to bring you Comic-Con at home. All week, we're streaming the best in celebrity panels, screenings, and sneak peeks at the hottest upcoming movies, books, and streaming content, not to mention epic announcements, unforgettable surprises, and all the collectibles your heart desires. Plus, cosplay! Finally, an excuse to wear a mask. It's all the best parts of Comic-Con with none of the crowds or parking difficulty. Today we're taking a look at what this year's Comic-Con has in store and getting geared up for the goodness. Plus, we go one-on-one with Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld to talk about Snake Eyes and hear his take on Deadpool in the MCU. And at 4 p.m. Pacific, we dive deep into the world of Watchmen and the cruelty of masks direct from the Geek Ed panel. So sit back, wash your hands, stop touching your face, and let's have some fun. IGN's coverage of Comic-Con at Home starts right now.
Yeah.
What's up, everyone? Sydney and Akeem here for IGN. Welcome to Comic-Con at Home. Right from preview night all the way to closing ceremonies, IGN is about to bring you a full array of the best panels, exclusive celebrity interviews, announcements, and trailers that Comic-Con has to offer. You can catch it all right here or in your living rooms on the IGN channel on your Samsung TV Plus, Plex, or Pluto.
You can also keep up with all that's going on by following IGN on your social media feeds or join in the conversations by tweeting at us with the hashtag IGN Comic-Con. And for all you TikTok users out there, we want to see how you're celebrating Comic-Con at home today, guys. Now follow IGN and upload TikToks with the hashtag TikTok FanFest to show off your very best fan content.
Speaking of showing off, just because Comic-Con is at home, it will not keep us from cosplaying. Suit up with the hashtag best cosplay on TikTok and your video could show up on the stream. And while you're shooting all those videos and entering all our challenges, we're going to dive straight into what's coming up first on Comic-Con at Home.
That's right, Sid. Now we're talking The Walking Dead, New Mutants, and The Boys, plus a Watchmen panel coming up, and so much more, guys. And to help us lay out today's full schedule and dig deeper into what Comic-Con has in store, we're welcoming IGN's very own TV and streaming editor, David Griffin. Hi, David.
Hi, everyone. Happy Comic-Con Day. I wish I could be with you guys physically in San Diego, but this is just as good. I'm happy to be talking about everything that we love to talk about here at IGN.
Same, man. Now, tell us, what are you most excited to see at Comic-Con?
I am really pumped for The Boys Season 2. I love the first season. It's one of my favorite shows of 2019. And then in this season, the way Season 1 ended had a crazy finale that sets up a really interesting arc for Karl Urban's Butcher and, of course, Homelander, who's like, you know, a sick, twisted version of Superman, a guy you don't want to mess with. I can't wait to see where their story goes, especially how the boys are on the run. And, you know, it's just, I love the fact that these superheroes are a little darker. They're being hunted. They're not loved by everybody, but they're so complex, too. There's a lot of layers to them to uncover. One of my favorite characters from Season 1 was Chase Crawford's The Deep. He's kind of like this version of Aquaman who's definitely not lovable at first, but you really come to respect and, maybe not respect, but I would say you come to, you know, feel for what he's going through. You know, he gets taken advantage of a little bit by the end, and he's kind of cast out, and now he's on his own in Season 2, and I can't wait to see what he's going to do. But probably one of the most things I'm excited to see is Giancarlo Esposito's Stan Edgar. We got a little glimpse of him in Season 1, but he's going to be one of the main villains here in Season 2. And I mean, we know Giancarlo Esposito. I mean, he's just like, if you need a bad guy in your show, you go to Giancarlo Esposito. He's in Better Call Saul right now. He's going to be in Far Cry 6. He's in Mandalorian. I mean, he's your go-to guy. And then lastly, Aya Cash is a pretty, I don't know if you've ever heard of her. She's a great actress, and she's playing Stormfront, who, from what we've heard so far, is going to give Homelander a run for his money this season. So I'm excited to see that as well.
Yeah, sticking on The Boys, I got to say, I'm super duper excited to see Giancarlo Esposito's character more. I remember just last year at San Diego Comic-Con, I got to interview him for The Boys premiere, and I was wondering, like, why are you here? Are you in this? And yes, because, you know, like, it's like Amazon Prime Video. They knew they had a hit on their hands. They were filming for Season 2 last year. And I'm like, Giancarlo is just amazing. I mean, he's gonna be in Far Cry 6. He's Lex Luthor in the Harley Quinn animated series. Like, this is the year of Giancarlo. Like,
every year is the year of Giancarlo. Get it together, Akeem.
All right.
No, but that's funny because I actually interviewed him for the first time last year at Comic-Con as well. But that was on the Better Call Saul red carpet. So he truly is everywhere. Yes, and he's the best.
Absolutely. So, Sid, what are you most excited to see?
So I don't know that this is, I would say, I guess intrigued and excited is kind of the same thing, but I am definitely very intrigued by this saga of New Mutants. Like, what is happening?
It's been a saga, yeah.
But I mean, my interest was generally piqued when they first announced the film, because say what you will about the old X-Men films, I was enamored by them. I loved them. And so I was really excited to see that they were creating this genre film, because when this was first announced, you know, that was still few and far between, more or less. But I do have some questions. I mean, we have been hyping this up and slowly getting trickles of information since like 2017, but is this more young adult? Is it more horror? Josh Boone, who's the writer-director, was coming off of A Fault in Our Stars when they brought him on for this project. And the original inception was for it to be a young adult film. Based on the things that I've read, when they were testing out things with audience members and whatnot, it seemed like the horror element was hitting harder. And so I believe that that is the route that the final edit has taken. But I'm definitely just so curious to learn more about it. I'm also curious, does it get delayed again? I mean, the current standing release date is August 28th, which is coming up really fast. In light of the pandemic, I know in California, theaters aren't open yet. And I am curious, I mean, if Disney has held out this long, Fox and Disney, I guess technically, have held out this long, like, do they just keep pushing it? I mean, David, you're the streaming editor. Do you think that it'll come to Disney Plus or Hulu?
I mean, after being, you know, cooped up at home for so long, I'm ready to watch it all. I loved being able to watch Hamilton on Disney Plus, and of course Artemis Fowl was on Disney Plus. So I think because, Sydney, like you were saying, this is a little more adult, a little more horror fare. I don't know if New Mutants would pair well with Bambi, but I think, yeah, if you put New Mutants over on Hulu, especially with what Hulu's doing with FX, it's a little bit more adult fare, a little more mature. I think that would be a perfect place to drop it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love being in the theater. I love having my popcorn and a drink and just enjoying a movie on the big screen. But since we're all at home and we can't go back to the theater quite yet, I hope that they put it out on streaming, possibly Hulu.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like the new big screen is now the small screen. So I mean, I'd be happy to see it on Disney Plus for sure. And hopefully it does lean into like the whole horror aspect, because as you all might know, I am a huge horror fan, and so I'm definitely looking forward to The Walking Dead, their new, not necessarily the new season, but the last episode in the 10th season. He's got a huge set of walkers on hand that are going to be heading towards our group. Also, we got Eugene and company. They're headed to see a woman by the name of Stephanie, who we're possibly going to see the Commonwealth, our first glimpses of the Commonwealth. So I'm super duper psyched just to see what's in store for us in this final episode of season 10 of The Walking Dead. Thank you, Sydney, and thank you, David, for joining us. This was awesome, guys. Now, we've got to take just a quick break, guys, but Comic-Con at home. We'll be right back. Still ahead, an interview with Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld, and later, a panel on the Watchmen and the cruelty of masks. Stick around, guys. San Diego Comic-Con at home is brought to you by
what's up, guys?
Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yakuza.
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show!
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers,
We don't
cosplay,
have TikTok
collectibles,
here.
and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now
Hello
be
guys, what's
crammed
up? Welcome
right
to the
into the palm
stream.
of your hand. Check out IGN's
We are
TikTok
watching
for today's
Comic-Con.
Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa!
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
News, games, and more is IGN's live news show every day of the week that covers all the day's news about games, movies, comics, and of course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent, going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find us on youtube.com/IGN and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art.
What was that?
Memes, and a
Whoa,
lot
what
more.
was that?
Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
Hey guys, Akeem here, and we're gonna keep unpacking what's comic up from Comic Con. See what I did there? Later today, we've got a Watchmen panel from Geek Ed, plus interviews with Rob Liefeld and George Takei.
But first, to help us dive into a few upcoming panels and keep the hype going, host of Game Scoop and Next Gen Console Watch 2020, Mr. Damon Hatfield himself. What's up, Damon?
What's up,
You.
everybody? Hello there.
Now, Damon, we gotta ask you, what are you stoked for Comic-Con this year?
I know one of the bigger panels is a Constantine 15th anniversary panel. Constantine being the 2005 gritty superhero movie starring Keanu Reeves, and both Keanu and the director are going to be
Rough, to say the least. But when you were saying that this was even before Xbox 360 came out,
Yeah.
what in the world? Like, I'm like picturing that giant OG Xbox that I had, and I actually remember watching Constantine. I don't remember anything about the movie, but I remember watching it with my dad and being afraid of it. But yeah, that's my only memory of Constantine. But I know that it's exciting when we have these kind of nostalgia look back moments, because I was much too young to even semi appreciate Constantine. I was like very, very little. And so it's nice to see these things get these anniversary moments, because it's kind of like an entry point for new fans, especially in something that's such a cult classic, or has a cult following. So I don't know, I guess we'll see. Akeem, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I got to tell you, since we're sticking on the topic of Keanu, I'm looking forward to Bill and Ted Face. This is the character that would have been played by George Carlin if he were still with us, the late and great George Carlin, who played the character Rufus. And little known fact, Kelly is actually, her name is actually based on George Carlin's real life daughter, Kelly Carlin. So it's a great tribute that they're doing in that regard. So I'm super duper psyched to just find out more about that particular movie. But what say you, Sydney? What are you looking forward to this year?
Well, I am enamored by What We Do in the Shadows. It is
Same.
by far my
Everyone is.
favorite TV show that's on right now. But I would definitely say it ranks in my top, like, of all time. If you have not watched it, please do yourself a favor and watch it. But season 2 just about wrapped. I don't actually know how long ago that was. It was within the last month, I believe, that they aired the season finale of season 2, and it ends on quite the predicament, to say the least. But I'm really curious what they do with that in season 3. I think part of the charm of this show is, there's a technical term for it that is escaping me, but where you can essentially tune in to any episode and you won't be lost. You'll have a good time anyways. But they do have season by season arcs, and the way that season 2 ends, it is something that definitely needs to be addressed pretty much immediately in season 3. And I really hope that they keep the same storytelling cadence that they have in the first 2 seasons, because I feel like it will be a different show if it starts taking itself too seriously and solely focuses its attention on this season plot arc. That's not a real word, but it's a combination of technical words put together. But I love this show. Even if they did that, I don't think they can do any wrong. They have such a wonderful handle of these characters and explore the mundane aspects of life in just a really, really pleasant way. Damon, I know you're a big fan of it. What are you hoping to see for season 3?
Well, yeah, season 2 just recently ended, as you said. And I actually just watched the season 2 finale the other night. So yeah, I don't no spoilers, but their whole lives have changed at the end of season 2. So who knows where it's going to go from there.
All right. No spoilers, thank you, because I want to get into it, and I will. All right, I got plenty of time during this quarantine. You guys have convinced me that I need to check it out.
One of us.
One of us.
Now, we'll be right back for an exclusive interview with comics legend and Deadpool creator Rob Liefeld. Plus, stay tuned for our interview with George Takei, a Watchmen panel from Geeked, and later, don't miss a special Comic-Con edition of Up at Noon at 5. It's always at 5. San Diego Comic-Con at Home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
Yakuza.
Still using those tiny phones and tablets to watch IGN? Give your eyeballs a rest because IGN has moved to your living room. Get first looks and in-depth reviews of the most talked about titles.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Pleasure to be here.
And take a front row seat to the biggest events of the year. Tune in on your Samsung TV Plus, Pluto, and Flex.
Wow.
And take a load off. Tune in to IGN 1.
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show.
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa.
The next generation of video gaming is on the horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch 2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode.
They didn't say the time.
Welcome back to Comic-Con at Home. Don't forget, there are a ton of ways you can get involved in the stream. Make sure to follow IGN on Twitter and TikTok to join in on the conversation and share your best cosplay vids with the hashtag BestCosplay. Or send us your best fan content on TikTok with the hashtag TikTokFanFest to take part in today's fandom challenge. If you're more of a writer type, you can tweet at IGN with the hashtag IGNComicCon, and we'll answer some of your tweets at the end of the show.
That's right, Damon. But first, legendary comic book creator and artist Rob Liefeld has worked on everything from Deadpool and Cable to Wolverine and the X-Men. But this year, he set his sights on the iconic G.I. Joe hero Snake Eyes in the brand new Hasbro and IDW comic book series Snake Eyes Dead Game. To tell us all about it, here's the man himself, Rob Liefeld.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. And also joining me is General Comics legend Rob Liefeld. Rob, how are you doing today? How are you doing during this quarantine, this pandemic, this whole situation?
Hey, great to talk to you. I am doing quite well, very, very well actually. Lot to keep me busy and distracted.
The Deadpool solo video game came out in 2013. Obviously, we've seen Deadpool pop up in other video games throughout the years. We have a new console generation about to come up. Any chance that Deadpool could pop up in another video game sometime in the future?
Wouldn't they, right? Look, man, look, I'm just going to tell you right now, screw movies. Screw this whole Deadpool movie talk, okay? The anniversary of the game was last week, the 2013 game, okay? And I was thrilled when that came out, and it was next level. It was funny. Deadpool has been a thing for 30 years. So your answer is, of course they should be making more Deadpool video games. Of course they should be making a Deadpool cartoon. Hello, what the hell? There has been no Deadpool entertainment talks that I'm aware of, and as far as the movie, that's above my pay grade, bro. I don't need another Deadpool movie. Don't need it. Got two great ones. They're perfect. Here's what I would say. Hey Disney, hi, it's Rob. You paid $70 billion for Fox, okay? You have no way to get all your $3 billion worth of movies into theaters. No Mulan, no Black Widow, no Eternals. Deadpool's kind of popular. Deadpool cartoons, Deadpool video games. Of course they should be making them. Iger, whoever is running the ship over there, what are you doing to get a return on your $70 billion? $70 billion into the Spider-Verse? Disney didn't make that. Sony made that. And I am not politically correct. You know, that's bullshit. Kevin Feige, love you, buddy. You're a genius, but there are other geniuses. You know, the guys who made Into the Spider-Verse, geniuses. Disney had nothing to do with that. Disney had nothing to do with Deadpool, Deadpool 2, Logan, okay? Just because they bought Deadpool, the movie, so Disney buys it from Fox, those producers deals don't go up in flames. You've got the Producers Guild, you've got the Actors Guild, you've got, you know, my buddy Josh Brolin is contracted for a bunch of appearances as Cable, okay? Well, that lands on your desk. You don't get to take that contract and light it on fire and make it go away. Hopefully the people who are watching this are interested in this, because I'm not scared to talk about it. And here's the reason why. Even back when I met Steven Spielberg and I met Tom Cruise and we started making movie projects together back in the 90s, even when they were uncertain of how to make comic book films and to be honest, were more than a little concerned. You know, even back then, comics brought me to the dance. This is what I do. This is my passion. I make pictures. What I do here is what I've always done. I'm a comic book guy, so I'm not intimidated to speak out about, you know, what do you call it? Multiple different projects or platforms, video games. But do I know that there's an audience for a cartoon, an audience for a video game? All of it. And the movie stuff is complicated. But in the meantime, in a pandemic, what didn't surprise me the other day was that they announced, I think yesterday, or I don't know when this is going to air, but recently they announced that they're making a Bad Batch Star Wars cartoon or a standoff or a spinoff. And I'm like, of course, because I talked to my animation friends. While we are in lockdown, you know what you can do? You can work on your computer. You can make computer graphics. You can make animation. You can work in isolation and continue to make entertainment that people want.
Snake Eyes, Dead Game. Tell us about this book. What was it that drew you to the Snake Eyes character? What can readers expect in this new title?
So it was about this time last year. It was May of 2019, and Chris Ryle, who is the publisher of IDW and a buddy of mine, called me the day another project of mine was hitting called Major X. He called me that. I very distinctly remember. He texted me and said, Rob, is it time? Should we do G.I. Joe? Okay, obviously, Hasbro is the parent company. They own, control all of the G.I. Joe property. They always have. Obviously, they've done a great job with it. And so I submitted a storyline that was more Snake Eyes centric, and they gave me the green light. The mail drop came, and I've been pouring all over this book. It turned out great. IDW, Hasbro took great care of me. Snake Eyes specifically, I can tell you, look, the Snake Eyes right here, this deluxe figure that they put out earlier this year, this bad boy, this is the first time I saw a pistol in my life. I had seen great mashups. I remember as a kid, you know, I saw Star Wars and recognized that Han Solo is the cowboy of the piece and that Obi-Wan is the old samurai and Darth Vader was a dark medieval knight in space. I mean, I understood all that language, and I dug it when I was 9 years old, sitting there going, that's Eastern culture. That's like the Kung Fu movies, and that's like the Westerns I watched with my dad. And so I always loved seeing mashups, but I had never seen a character who was ninja-fied, who also holstered a sidearm, and who moved like this. So Snake Eyes was always a giant inspiration, and you might say that the next time you saw a guy with a pistol and a katana, he might have looked like this. And so you don't get to Deadpool without Snake Eyes. I can confirm that, and so it's exciting to do Snake Eyes and kind of honor my childhood.
Awesome. Yeah, I was just going to ask you what comes first, Snake Eyes or Deadpool? It seems like Snake Eyes.
Oh yeah. Oh no. Yeah, no. The Snake Eyes directly informed everything I did with Deadpool, other than he's mute. But right here is Roadblock, and you kind of don't get to Cable without Roadblock. G.I. Joe really informed my corner of the X-Men universe, because I love weapons, I love gear. That all came from G.I. Joe. And I know people have tried to put the pouches on me, like I'm the pouch king. And I always go, wait, did you really never see a soldier in the military before? And have you ever seen a SWAT officer? Like, those guys are covered in pouches, right? But I will gladly be the champion of pouches. That's a moniker I'll wear. But G.I. Joe 100% informed everything that I eventually went on to do with X-Force, with Cable, with Deadpool.
Can you talk a little bit about the villain? Who is Snake Eyes going up against in Dead Game?
Our bad guy, Kurgan, is got his Sword of the Dead Sword, and we haven't really told you what that does yet, but you understand that it's a very powerful weapon, and that you have to sacrifice a certain amount of energy to raise all of the dead, which is what the Dead Sword and the Dead Game will do. It will give you an instant army across the world of all the dead.
Rob, we're about out of time. Comics fans, check out Snake Eyes Dead Game. It is out in stores now.
And listen to my podcast. I have a podcast, Robservations. Robservations with Rob Liefeld.
Okay.
That was awesome. Our thanks to Rob Liefeld. We'll be right back with more Comic-Con at home, but just in case you missed it, here's a peek at the schedule. Plus, you can find the full week schedule at IGN.com. All right, up. Heroes have traditionally worn masks as a way to hide their identities while saving the day from evil. But last year's Watchmen show on HBO introduced the concept that masks can, quote, make one cruel.
Ooh. Either way, masks have taken on a symbolism of their own in our new reality of 2020. So we go now to what promises to be a fascinating discussion on masks in pop culture and the real world. Here is Geek Ed, Watchmen, and Cruelty of Masks.
Welcome, and thank you for joining us. We are Geek Ed, a coalition of educators who investigate and interrogate the intersection between higher education and popular culture. My name is Alfred Day. I am the Associate Dean of Students and Director of the Center for Support and Intervention at the University of California, Berkeley. I use he, him, and his pronouns, and I would like to read something, and then I'll have my colleagues introduce themselves. A couple saves their son from the destruction of their advanced civilization with a message of hope. That child goes on to become a symbol of hope and inspiration in 1938, establishing a new idea, the superhero. This story applies to both Superman, largely acknowledged to be the inspiration for the modern era of the superhero, and to Watchmen's Hooded Justice in HBO's Watchmen, based on the comic book Watchmen by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. This very intentional allusion to Superman gives us a narrative that significantly complicates the trope of the masked Avenger. In fiction, a symbol of inspiration, but in real life, a symbol of a much more troubling nature. David, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, David Surratt. I use he, him pronouns. I'm Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students at the University of Oklahoma and a native of Oklahoma as well.
And Kalinda.
Hello, Kalinda Eaton, she, her, hers pronouns. I am a professor of African and African American Studies at the University of Oklahoma.
Haley.
Hi, I'm Haley Lopez, she, her, hers pronouns, and I'm a case manager for Student Affairs at the Center for Intervention and Support at UC Berkeley.
And Rob.
I am Robert Hives. I am a Community Impact Manager for United Way Merced County, and I use he, him, his pronouns.
Thank you all for joining us. So Watchmen came out earlier this year and was quite popular, and a lot of people saw it. And I think I am surprised upon my rewatch based on this panel how more and more prescient and relevant to today's, and particularly this weekend, the weekend we're recording this, which is the weekend that President Trump had a rally in Tulsa, Oklahoma, how much more relevant every day HBO's Watchmen has become. In thinking about Watchmen, and particularly thinking about the ideas behind masks and the idea that masks make one cruel, what are folks thinking about? How is this impacting them, particularly in light of this weekend's events? Does anybody have initial thoughts?
Well, I think, if I can jump in, that I immediately think about this kind of dual purpose, right, of the mask, especially as it relates to race relations in the United States. And so we have, for example, if we're thinking about along this kind of black-white binary, right, we have African Americans who often wear masks for protection, right, to conceal hurt, to conceal trauma, to protect themselves from, more hurt and trauma, right? And then you have masks being worn by those who we would probably identify as villains, or those who are kind of inflicting that trauma. And so as it relates to kind of what's happening this weekend, or what was happening this weekend, we have a lot of wounds, of course, in this country that have not been healed, fully healed. And a lot of people, I think, have been kind of hiding behind various different masks, whether they be masks of ignorance, right, or masks of protection, and those are, being just kind of taken off. And I think we see a lot of that in the protests that are out in the streets, but also just in the ways in which people are really interrogating, the administration right now.
That is very interesting. Introducing the idea of masks being complicated by both worn by both heroes and villains. It's something I hadn't really considered in that thought process.
Yeah, I'd say one thing in addition to that too, and I remember when the TV series came out, and you saw some of the social media chatter from folks who literally said, I was that day old when I heard about the race massacre and not realizing it, right? So it was, so I think that, the rally happening in Tulsa this weekend was interesting because it created more dialogue and conversation for folks who've never been exposed to either Juneteenth or the significance of Juneteenth and the history of race relations in Oklahoma specifically. And when the series came out, I remember just texting a few friends and scholars too, and just saying, this is a very interesting time right now, because when you start thinking about the convergence of pop culture and this history of our country, especially history of ill, I found it to be a tremendously important moment in our time. And so I'm glad we're having this conversation as well too, because especially with the history of the Watchmen, basically taking historical events and then pivoting them for the sake of both connection to our own history, but also connection to some real opportunities and lessons learned about our understanding of heroes and villains. I thought that was really powerful right now too.
Yeah, I found it incredibly powerful. And like I said, I rewatched for the basis of this panel. And one of the things that I noted on a rewatch was how much, as you note, David, the intersection between real world and the sort of fantasy world of Watchmen are very intricately connected and somewhat complexly composed against each other. For example, Watchmen starts with a young man watching a fictional film about a real life individual, Bass Reeves,
Right.
Who was the inspiration for a fictional character, the Lone Ranger, whose race was changed obviously, who was one of the inspirations for the entire superhero genre, of which Watchmen, when it came out in 1985, was a commentary and reaction to. So, and all of that is very intentional, right? And so, and for me, thinking of myself as the only Black nerd in Merced, California in 1985, picking up Watchmen off of the racks at the 7-Eleven, and it really being central to my first encountering narratives that were complex. It wasn't the same old Batman story where Batman punches the Joker in the face and drives away in his rocket car, right? It was much more complex, and I remember picking Watchmen up off of the stand, and then having to go to the library to kind of understand some of the context of what was going on. And specifically sort of really understanding the politics that Watchmen was playing with. And this was in the graphic novel at the time. I'll say it was in the comic books because I was buying them off the stand monthly. And then when you come to this year's or this era's HBO's Watchmen, much similar as you talk about, David, people having the reaction, particularly around knowing the historical events around the Tulsa race massacre and things of that sort. For other folks, like, how did you receive Watchmen when you found it? Was some of it surprising? What about that intersection between real life and fantasy that it plays with?
Yeah, for me, a sentiment that's already been shared, but think about how when I was watching Watchmen, and again, I've also rewatched it for this panel as well, it parallels our time. So even though Watchmen, the universe of Watchmen occurs in this alternate reality where the Cold War, where we had kind of extended the Cold War, the United States had won Vietnam. There's this kind of parallelism, and yet here we are at the same place. But that's where I remember thinking about, it's telling a story, but in the story, here are these just kickers of truths about our modern society, and some of that are the wounds that we haven't healed. And I just remember, like, almost watching the series for me was a little bit of unmasking of naming the things that are happening in the United States currently that we've, you know, as a society have layered over. The series for me came in and took that away, and really played with the concept of the vigilante and of the villain in the Watchmen universe as a means to talk about very serious racial hurt in the United States. And in the past month, the relevance even of the concept of the masks we wear are cruel, or the masks we wear are ways for us to deal with our trauma and process that trauma as we move in the world, has become way, way relevant. So yeah, I think sometimes fiction tells us a truth and mirrors back to ourselves. Watchmen is doing that. Watchmen did that. And it's important to have that dialogue about how that impacts our current reality in the United States.
Yeah, no, it's actually, to me, really interesting, these last few months. And I think I keep coming back to this concept of society as a whole is like unmasking itself and realizing certain aspects of our country, our culture that we were not even aware of. And I think, Al, you and I both talked about how Watchmen opened up with the Tulsa massacre, and just like that's something that has, you know, in my kind of viewing of TV movies, like I've never seen that before. And the way that it was done, like you're glued to the screen. And then like you, like I was reading all these reviews as well as all these comments of people like, I had no idea that this ever occurred. I have a master's degree. I have, you know, at no point in my schooling have I ever actually study that. And this seemed, and even the concept of Juneteenth, you know, so many people are like, wait a second, this happened. This is a thing. This isn't just for this year. And seeing all of the people that have responded to that way, just, you know, all these realizations that are hitting society is kind of an interesting time, coupled with how interesting our political environment is and how that is becoming it just seems like everything is becoming unmasked to me. Like, it's, you know, all these people are starting to realize certain aspects of their history that they never even thought of before. This is coming from the guy that grew up in, you know, country of Arkansas. So it's like, wait a second, just reading my Facebook comments of people that I used to go to middle school and high school with, I'm like, okay, well, all right.
That's interesting because I spent a week in Arkansas for 2 nights. It was a whole thing. I had to pick up my sister. There was a U-Haul involved. We won't get into it. We talked a little bit about the mixing of fantasy and reality, right? And how Bass Reeves, who was an actual real life person, inspired the Lone Ranger, a fictional person, who then inspired a real life retelling of a fictional character's journey. And it's sort of sort of this idea that just sort of feeds, it's an iterative idea that feeds on itself. When we talk about sort of mask in addition to having a history in terms of superhero narratives, they have a history in drama and in thought. Rob, can you talk a little bit about what masks mean theatrically?
Well, it's just it's a really long history, kind of like spanning all the way to the ancient Greek theater. And a lot of times what they utilized the mask for was stock characters and to influence stereotypes or to show emotions, especially with like their Greek chorus that they were utilizing. So, you know, you wore the mask and the audience knew instinctively who that character was, who that character was representing. It also, you know, we would utilize masks because at the time, throughout the history of theater, people didn't really have a good opinion about it. So you were masking performers because those performers were not well thought of in society. And it's kind of this concept that has stretched throughout the years, is that, you know, you wear the mask to showcase this particular aspect of the character that you're trying to bring across. You wear the mask to protect your identity in front of the audience that you're performing with. It's kind of stretched all the way into modern movie making. And then also, like, even in society, when people used to wear masks to go to the theater, when you were kind of higher up in society, you would put a mask on to be able to attend live theater, so no one there kind of knew who you were and what family you belonged to, so you could go see a show. So we've been utilizing masks just for centuries, just both to hide our true identities and also to allow the audience to kind of see, to know automatically who that character was and what that character represented.
Which I find very fascinating, because in this is something I've said a lot. I'm a huge comic book fan. I love Batman more than I love certain members of my own family. And Batman is someone who puts on a mask to seek out justice. But I also know that in the real world that I live in, someone who puts on a mask to seek out justice is more likely to be a member of the Ku Klux Klan. So when we think of sort of the theatrical history of masks and we think of the real world history of masks, masks in the real world are often used, as you mentioned, to sort of hide someone from something they're ashamed about, or to hide something from someone's identity from a deed that they are ashamed to be engaged in. Does anybody have any ideas how that's manifesting itself sort of from a modern perspective? What masks are people putting on, whether metaphorically or literally, today? And in addition to the COVID mask that many of us are wearing in public.
Well, I think it's, oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I really appreciate your comments. And I couldn't get this out of my head with what Kalinda and Haley also mentioned, though, too. I mean, I think of Apollo and Stormbar. You know, we wear the mask that grins and lies, that hides our cheeks and shades our eyes. It's something that comes to me all the time, because, yes, we talk about the use of masks in order to shield shame, but then also I think there's two other folds of it. There's one probably around the idea of even modesty in some form or fashion, of trying to maintain a sense of humility, but there's also a self-preservation part, or even managing certain types of trauma or navigating life every day, in which masks are worn. And so, and to Robert's point too, you reminded me of that around the idea of even life stations, right? So if, you know, historically masks were seen as a way to hopefully strip down either class differences or whatnot, to be able to attend certain social functions as well, and sort of create this sort of, I guess, level field. But then unintentionally, it upholds these hierarchies and the supremacy, either economic or social supremacy that happens, because without that mask, you know, it's what's real, what's happening in your environment. So for me, you know, one of the things that I just think about is you know, Hooded Justice as a character himself in the TV series, and historically in the graphic novels. I found it very intriguing in that he's obviously wearing that mask because they know he knew the public wasn't ready for a Black superhero. He just knew it. He knew he'd be attacked and hunted down. His family would be in danger. But then also the fact that he's wearing that hood, and also that the noose around his neck, it's some way of him trying to even mask or even get through his trauma by almost echoing it for anyone that he encounters, to say this is what you caused. And so it's really that's one part of it that really stood out to me.
I agree, and I think also back to this question of kind of in the modern day, also thinking about, you know, we wear the mask that grins and lies, right? That people often wear masks in order to play a game. Right, they're playing the game, so to speak, right? And so I'm thinking about, even if you think, I know the Klan was mentioned earlier in this kind of this history of the Klan, and how, you know, once it manifests into something more menacing than I guess what it started out being, the masks were worn to startle and kind of terrorize, right, African Americans, based on this belief that African Americans were afraid of ghosts. Right, and that you know, this was going to be some way to kind of, you know, unnerve them, and so this kind of idea that, you know, they were playing, that the people in wearing the hoods were going to kind of play on the fears, right, of these African Americans, but many African Americans knew who were, you know, the people who knew who they were, right, the people who were actually under the hoods, and so they would also kind of like play back, right? I mean, this is of course when murder was not involved, right? But, you know, kind of play back, right? And just kind of, you know, pretend, right? That, you know, they were kind of very terrified or terrorized or what have you, but at the same time kind of playing this game to say, okay, you know, we see what you're doing to us, but we also, you know, have a plan B, right? You know, and so then it, you know, it kind of manifests in ways that are a lot more menacing and terrorizing, and, you know, people are kind of, you know, running through towns and what have you, and killing others. But in the kind of very beginning, it was just like, oh, you think that you're going to, you know, cause us to submit. We'll pretend like we are, but we really aren't. So there's a lot of pretending with mask wearing as well, that I think that's important throughout history, but also I think a lot of what we do in the day-to-day, right, even on our jobs sometimes, you know, there's some masks that are being worn that people don't always reveal.
It's an interesting point when you talk about sort of the play back and forth of you know, between the folks who knew that there was a Klan, the Klan pretending that they didn't know, and then the oppressed folks being like, oh, let me pretend that I'm scared. This sort of going back to Rob's point, this sort of murderous theater sort of going back and forth amongst.
Well, that's like Don Johnson's character. I don't remember names. I'm a horrible. I don't remember names at all. But
I think it was Judd. I think it was
Judd. Oh, yep, Judd. This idea of like the political mask, this mask that you wear in society, this mask that you wear when you're around town talking to the people, and then when that mask comes off, kind of the reveals that are there when, you know, you're actually real. I've seen that happen. Like I've been watching a lot of just local city council meetings, supervisor meetings, and it's really interesting, some of these protests, because a lot of these protests that you have really eloquent members that are coming to these meetings now and are in essence like unmasking these political players, these people in positions of power, and saying, you know, why aren't you looking after yourselves? Here are the things that you've been getting away with in society, and you're supposed to be the representatives of our society. You're supposed to be the people that we look up to, the people that we trust. And I find that that's happening politically all across the country, where people are being, you know, political figures are being unmasked, and you're kind of seeing what lies beneath, almost kind of like it just reminded me of just seeing Judd and, you know, kind of what you saw at the very beginning, and actually going, hey, you know, for me personally, it's like, I love Don Johnson. I'm like, oh, hey, you're so nice. Okay. And then all of a sudden the reveal happens and you go, oh my God, okay. I did not anticipate that at all. And I think that's what you see a lot in today's society too.
And it replicates an experience I've had many times.
Belinda, what did you say? I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I was saying, I don't know, he kept singing Oklahoma. He was singing a little too hard for me in the beginning. So.
No, I was like, I'm suspicious of you. First episode, sorry, this is a little bit off topic, but first episode where he gets up from the table and he does drugs in the kitchen. And I was like, the first indication that you're not what you've seen. It was just very interesting the way anyway. I was also thinking about what Rob's statement about masks historically also telling the audience who the character is, right? And how the audience can kind of depend on, all right, you've put on this mask now, so your motivations are these, and this is who you are. And kind of like the subversion of that, that Watchmen, and particularly referring to the HBO series right now, but shows in that actually you can't, like the mask that maybe someone wears shows their true intentions, and then the ones that they're wearing to usual normal polite society are not actually the ones, that's not actually who they are, and that they're mitigating and managing their character through this mask. And I was also thinking about electronic masks in some way too. I've been seeing that a lot lately as well. Students, for example, using different social medias, and I'm thinking about particularly the Finstagrams and other methods of selecting who gets to see what you post, then what you post to the social media account that you have that is supposed to be public, and seeing the bias, particularly bias recently, has been happening a lot on these private platforms where someone is kind of saying perhaps what they're really thinking, and then someone there posting that to their real platform, and noting like, well, you've said this word here or displayed these sentiments over here, I want you held accountable for that. And like a shock when the person is asked to be held accountable for those things. And I don't know if you all have any thoughts about that, but that's been particularly hard as an educator to dive in with folks about talking about their own identity development, the way that they portray themselves or perceive themselves to be, and then the hurt or harm that they cause because they are, or in some ways, wearing a mask to the general facing public, and have these really like insidious undertones of their actual behavior or beliefs.
No, that's really real. I'll just say quickly. So my office, we work in coordination with our Division for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and we are responding to bias incidents all the time. And I think particularly as the campaign's going to heat up, and also in the last 3 weeks with the amount of activism that we've seen in the country, across the world in some ways too, we've been seeing more reports where people have been, I guess in some ways, shedding certain types of masks themselves. They are saying, you know what, I know I've said privately that I'm against certain types of white supremacist acts or racist acts, but I haven't really spoken out on it. And I feel like there were some people who were trying to find some empowerment by contacting our office and basically revealing some of the social media stuff or the things and actions and behaviors that were definitely biased in nature, and reporting to our office. And so the interesting thing is the amount of things that we've gotten now has actually caused more labor on Black and brown folks like myself or my colleague who's the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, to try to respond to these things. And it's very, very interesting because the amount of labor that we're having to put in to reach out and contact students who we know are engaging in certain types of choices that are antithetical to our core values as an institution, and yet we're caught in the crux because there's also First Amendment protections that allow even hate speech to be able to exist, right, in certain ways. But that same protection allows me to speak out on social media myself and call out things, or my colleagues do the same thing. So that's the one thing that kind of comes out to me. But the one other thing that I think about too, from the connection to even the TV series, I think about the character Looking Glass. So I think about what he sees himself as. He's exercising his own trauma because of feeling he got deceived. And so he's so focused and fixated as a law enforcement officer to not just discover his identity, but to hopefully reveal otherness in other people in his own way of managing his own trauma. But in some ways, I think it's our kind of job of trying to help process this with our students. And so when I'm having a conversation with a student who uses the N-word in social media and gets called out, or does misogynist things and statements like that, and when I read it back to them, and I literally mirror it for them and say it, and they realize how outlandish it sounds here in my voice, and realizing it doesn't connect to their core values or what they hope their core values are intended to be. That's the hard part of our job as educators, is trying to control for my own values and my own bias in those situations. Because sometimes, frankly, I want to shake some folks, really I do. But we're trying to get them right. We're trying to get them to have alignment between what they hope their core values are going to be and where their actions are. And so that's the biggest part that it reminds me of in your question too.
I just have a question with that, I guess, for whomever, in terms of just this unmasking, right, that people are doing, that their peers are doing. We see this with entertainers as well as students on campus, where they will, post, these particular conversations or things that were private, right? And so then they're unmasking these others. And kind of who is this? Do you also see this as a form of vigilantism, as I was trying to say? Like, are these vigilantes? Oh, I'm going to expose this one, I'm going to expose that one. And kind of who has the power to unmask and who doesn't? Because I'm thinking about Watchmen, right? And Judd tells, it might have been Looking Glass, I don't remember. I'm sure someone on the panel will correct me. But he says, when he has his mask up, he says, pull your face down, right? When, he's like, he's about to go out back into public. It's like, I can tell you, when to put your mask on and when to take it off, right? I have this power, right? And I'm just wondering how that fits in with kind of the ways in which these other students are saying, are kind of, telling their peers, like, okay, I can unmask you, right? Or I can, kind of allow you rather to be masked, right? By not, calling you out. So I'm just wondering what you all think, or if that makes any sense.
Oh my gosh.
That makes perfect sense to me, because even in context, like I remember even maybe a year ago where you had some people that were just saying ridiculous things or stupid things, or in one certain case, someone posting something as gospel from the Babylon Bee and having to be like, that's a satire website, I hope you know that. And what's interesting now is you're seeing more and more people that are calling people out on social media saying that's wrong. That's what you're saying right now. That is wrong. That's not right. That's not moral. And it's kind of an interesting, because to me, like always in the past, like the internet was always like this lawless Wild West that encouraged like the worst dregs of humanity to come out and say whatever they wanted to because they finally could. Usually it was regulated to, pop culture like Watchmen or Star Wars or Game of Thrones. It was regulated to that. But now you see like people that are just coming out saying like the worst things that you can, and even the most uneducated, but then being called out legitimately by people that they know that you saw maybe a year ago, like they were all hanging out together, and now you have like people that are calling out. And I think it is a form of like vigilante. I won't be able to say that word, but you know what I mean.
I think it's a very interesting dilemma, right? Because I've always, because I'm a comic book fan, I've always differentiated between vigilantism and sort of the superhero trope, and I don't think the two are equal. I think the distinction that we may be seeing is that the people who are calling folks out are not wearing a mask and are often standing behind what they're saying. And I think that's a distinct difference between sort of putting a mask on and saying, hey, this person did this, but don't ask me about it, I don't want to be involved. And saying, no, I witnessed this person say this thing or do this thing, and I want you to know, and I'm going to hold you to account, to hold them to account, right? It is. I think there's a subtle difference between sort of the sort of anonymous seeking vengeance and opening yourself and saying, no, I will stand up and I will be identified, and you will be able to put a name to my statement, and if you want to talk about it, let's talk about it. I think that's a really interesting distinction.
Yeah, I got excited when Kalinda mentioned the idea of vigilantism and sort of this electronic world too, because I was like, I didn't ever think about why it was a challenge for me, because there are moments where there's social justice kind of vigilantism that shows up. And because that person is not responsible for the outcome or the follow-up or the fallout, they do kind of take on this personal kind of pride and heroism of like, stamping out, an issue or whatever, but then not being responsible for the outcomes after that, and that labor falls on something else, other structures. And so that's the one thing that I really I find very, very right and very intriguing and very challenging for me, because there's times where I do feel like the students are right to call each other out for sure. But the students who are oftentimes most, I guess, prepared to really understand what the impacts are the ones that we engage in more conversation. And I talk to them about what the follow-up is and what's going on. But it can be really, really challenging trying to go through the whole full process.
I also, I think about, I do see it as that's such a great point. There is this tinge of vigilantism. So some of I think where I'm sitting, I get reports from campus, from other students, from faculty, but the ones that we're getting from students are like coordinated, right? Like I saw something on Instagram, I saw something on Snapchat, what have you, and I had a problem with it. And not only did I have a problem with it, I have 15 other people who are about to have a problem with it too and submit it. And so like there's this kind of like sense of, and now institution, do something. It's actually on you, institution, to do something. I want punishment. And so many of my conversations with folks are, what is punishment, right? Like, is it punishment? Like, where are we with your understanding of maybe someone, like, of that accountability piece and of that education piece? And so it's like a good thing, and at the same time, it's a difficult, complex thing. What happens when we do have someone reporting to the institutional structure that something has happened that is harmful behavior? And then like the cynic in me, my inner cynic, also thinks about how that some of this has been increasing the last few weeks as everyone's been virtual, and there's more investment in virtual communities, and I think about how sometimes the social media call outs are almost like a mask too. It's very easy for me to sit behind my computer and say, well, but would I do it in person in our in-person communities? And then is that the next step of thinking about how we address, for example, bias? And also my mind goes back to the Crawfords and Senator King, who knew all the right things to say on their platforms that are really public facing, but there's like this insidious back end, right? And I think as a white person, I've been seeing that too, where it's like, you know, there's a post and everyone does that post. And then I question, we're like, well, behind the screen though, is this the mask that you're showing the public, or is this the mask you wear? Right. And what does that mean? So sorry, there's a lot of thoughts there, but I love this idea of vigilantism.
I wonder how much of this is youth-led as well, because for me, what I'm seeing is a lot of young people that are leading a lot of calling out other people online, that are leading a lot of these movements. And I wonder, you know, this whole generation of people that have grown up with just being part of the virtual world, and you know, we're all still just kind of learning it, and they've grown up with it, know it better than we'll ever know. So they've kind of grown up with this concept of not necessarily having a mask in the virtual world, where all of us are used to spending years of our lives developing our own kind of private masks to get further along in our job, or to get along with our colleagues, and they're not used to that. What I'm seeing a lot is, you know, people that are, you know, 19 into their middle 20s that are going into these meetings and are calling out these people in higher positions of power, or calling out these people that post hateful things online. It really is kind of an interesting thing to see.
You guys can support me
coordinated,
by
like you were saying, Haley.
Subscribing
it's
my
not
channel.
just one person that's doing it. It's one person will see something, call it out, and then 25 other people are doing the exact same thing. And so they're like coordinated attacks. And part of me just really feels that it is just kind of like this younger generation that are just leading this, like, you know what, we've had it. We looked up to you people for so long. You're not fixing anything. We're going to now start it ourselves and just get in the back seat. We're leading the way. We're leading the charge now.
And how much of it, quite frankly, is, and I'll just speak for myself, because I don't want to speak on behalf of other people, how much of the reaction is,
thank you,
well,
Didi.
I had to learn respectability politics, and I had to learn how to get along and you all are coming along and you're not playing respectability politics, right? And how much do I have to sort of check myself and be like, oh, because maybe they're a little braver than I was when I was coming up, and I had over concerns about how I was going to be perceived that this generation doesn't.
Well, something that when Rob was talking about, and also you just picked up on, that I was thinking about another way that we haven't talked about masking, and that is as a filter, right? And so they have no filter, right? And so, and we do, right? And those of us who have had to kind of put up this filter in order to, as he was saying, you know, progress in various different, you know, ladders and different levels or what have you, have this filtering sort of mask. I mean, I know we think about it in terms of, you know, public health, right? And, you know, in the global pandemic and COVID, right? The filter. But what about these other sorts of filters that do tie in definitely with, you know, what's known as respectability politics and the fact that they can be damaging in some way, right? I mean, there is an argument to be made about not filtering and you know, to be cliche, but right, kind of like speaking truth, right, where it needs to be spoken, rather than kind of like, you know, hiding behind what we think is the appropriate way of presenting an issue.
Yeah, it also reminds me of you know, moments where we uphold and really value authenticity and leadership, or showing up in spaces in authentic ways, where there's consistency with our values and the way we show up as leaders or as community members. And so that reminds me of that too. And what I also find intriguing is how younger folks, especially young activists, are looking at one strategy in social movement building, where they are literally telling us, you said this, but this is not consistent with what you said. Now do what you said you were going to do, right? And so that's the hard part, is when we're oftentimes probably even caught in situations where we're the ones who are upholding the consistencies or legitimacy of organizations that we represent. That's the one thing that I give a lot of grace to with our students, especially when they are coming up and saying, you believe in this, but yet you're allowing certain types of things. So it's a challenging thing, but I think that's part of it too.
Yeah, David, I think you hit part of the nail on the head, which is not only are our generation of students holding each other accountable, but they're holding us to account. And I liked it better when they didn't hold me to account, right? Like, you know, I want to do what I want to do. And this is a generation of students that if you say these are your values, they're going to expect you to live up to those values, and they're going to remind you when you don't. As we wrap up, I just want to make sure that we sort of talk finally about sort of, as we discuss masks and we discuss sort of how we are interfacing with this, if just sort of one final round, what masks are we wearing as a society or in education or in the organizations you're a part of that we need to learn how to take off?
I think for me personally, I think the number one mask to take off is, as I discussed, it gets to be so easy to fall into this is my place within my community and my society, and I've played this role for so long, or I've done this for so long. It's so easy to be like that. I don't think anyone has the luxury of doing that anymore. And what I've learned over the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks is this concept that you have to stand up for what you believe in, and you have to stand up for your community and the people that are around you, even if it's difficult. And I think part of the time, like, since I'm from I work in such a small town, it's so easy to get caught up in what I call, you know, the good old boy politics and the good old boy way of doing things, where you have to do things a certain way to kind of move forward or to get the donations that you're looking for. But part of me is, since I work at so strongly with a nonprofit, is, well, what's the point if it's just about moving forward to try and further your company within a certain society or a certain group of people, or to get donations? And if you're not actually fulfilling the mission, which is to help out the residents of your community, what's the point of doing it? And so I think for me, like, I'm trying to move forward and helping and being more active and more engaged for all the residents of my community. I think that's what I have to do moving forward.
For me, throughout, again, the HBO series, I refer to it a lot, but we hear all these different statements about masks. So we hear Lori say, people who wear masks have trauma. We hear Angela's father tell Angela at the picnic that they're at that people who wear masks are scary or have something to hide. Adrian says masks are cruel, right? And at the end, Will Reeves tells Angela, after she's like lost her husband and gone through this really emotionally hard journey of learning her family history and who she is, where she comes from, that wounds need air. And that we need to take off those masks and acknowledge the hurt to move forward. And I think in working in higher education, I often think about our wounds need air, not her. Our wounds need air, and naming the things that are hurtful are not in unmasking the policies or the institutional histories that are harming our students and harming our societies and our communities. Can only help us move forward. Like, our wounds need air. And I'm seeing that happen more and more. And something that is on my mind as, for example, an example of this is the divestment from police at universities, right? And this thinking of and naming of, we've done harm. There has been harm done by our investiture in police departments and universities, and maybe the policies that we have can be unmasked and changed, and there's going to be pain in that. But we can't continue to put things over it and layer it and carry these wounds behind the mask that we're wearing. So that's kind of where my mind's at right now.
I guess I would just add to that, especially going back to that exchange, all right, that Angela is having with the FBI agent when she does say, you know, people who are wearing masks are driven by trauma or what have you. And Angela's response is, you know, I wear the mask to protect myself, right? And then she cuts in, right, you know, from the pain. And so I guess when I think about that, just being an educator and being in the classroom and mentoring students and advising them, and they're always coming to, you know, my office to talk about their pain, right, and their, you know, issues and their trauma, and how they are being affected negatively, not all the time, but a lot of the times negatively by experiences they're having in the classroom or wherever the case may be. And I've always seen it, well, until recently, I should say, I always seen it as my role to just kind of be the quiet listener and give advice, right? But not attempt to try and, you know, kind of unmask, right, myself, right? And I also see it as kind of a way of protection as well. Like, there has to be this divide, right, you know, between, you know, the professor and the student. But I've been noticing just even in my own experience that I've been opening up a lot more and, you know, explaining to them that, you know, this is also, like, this has many levels. What you're experiencing has many levels, and that there are people around you who are experiencing some of the same, whether they be microaggressions or whatever the case may be, right? Same things on different levels in different ways. And I found that those conversations are much richer, right? When I'm kind of, you know, taking off the mask, to use the term, right? And just kind of saying, like, you know, this is something that we all are in together, and how can we move forward, right, as a solid body, rather than it being kind of a, you know, us versus them sort of situation.
Yeah, that's a deep question, Al. I mean, honestly, and I feel like I was short on answers. I think the first thing that really is salient for me is really echoing what others have said, but also a reminder of me in terms of positionality and leadership that I take on in a university setting. One of the things I've tried to do throughout my entire career is figure out how to be forthright and brave, and speaking up not for myself, but also for the people that I represent. And that is not easy. And I know you and I talked about this even before I left UC Berkeley and came back to Oklahoma. I recognize there are certain types of things and experiences in Oklahoma that are very different than other places I've lived, whether it be New York or California. But one of the things that I always remind myself too is that there's a time and place for every opportunity, and if this is the opportunity for me or colleagues of mine to speak up when we were afraid, this is the time. I had a good conversation with some of our activists on campus actually recently, because our Twitter handle had tweeted Black Lives Matter. This is University of Oklahoma tweeting Black Lives Matter, right? So on one fold, we definitely got dinged hard for performative kind of social justice, because if Black Lives really mattered, it would have showed up in our processes, our policies, the way we operate the university, right? So it seemed disingenuous to some people for sure, because they didn't experience it. I was a student here too. I didn't experience that way. Hell, a year ago, I was tokenized as the new man of color that was hired as the new vice president for student affairs. But what I also reflected on is that there's no better time than today to unmask something and to say, at least if it's not the reality, it's an opportunity, and that's our goal. And also it gives other people permission to simply take off something, even if it's a small sliver of themselves, to say, yes, Black Lives Matter to me too. Because you would have never heard that from Lincoln Riley or other prominent people who've given permission to other folks in Oklahoma, at least I could say, to say that Black Lives Matter too. And so I'd say that's probably one of the masks for me that I try to think about, is there's times when my dad educated me on how to survive, and that meant trying to make sure I be careful who I reveal my full self to, and be watchful of that. And but I also try to channel a little bit of Audre Lorde, right? That we're oftentimes afraid to speak because it won't be welcomed or heard. But if we don't speak it, we are still afraid, and so it's better to speak. So yeah, I think that's the one thing I'm going to think about in the process about this conversation.
Well, I thank you for all for showing up and unmasking with your authentic selves here today. We very much appreciate it, and we thank you for your time. Talk to you all later. Bye-bye.
Finally, this ended. Okay, let's see.
What's up, everyone? Sydney and Akeem here for IGN. If you're just joining us now, this is Comic-Con at Home, and we're bringing you the best Comic-Con panels, awesome celebrity interviews, major announcements, trailers, and tons of collectibles coverage.
That's right, Sydney. Comic-Con is my favorite convention of the year, and I'm so happy that there's a way for us all to enjoy it together from home this year. I don't know what voice that was. Coming up in just a bit, we've got IGN's own Brian Altano and Max Scoville doing a very, very special Yakuza-themed episode of Up at Noon with new gameplay footage, 2 exclusive interviews, and knowing Max and Brian probably in costumes.
We're also running some very special games and challenges on social media, so make sure to find us on Twitter and TikTok. Tweet at IGN with the hashtag IGN Comic-Con, or send us your best fan TikToks with the hashtag TikTok FanFest. TikTok FanFest. It's like, I'm not sure what that was. This is, wow, we're all over the place today.
A nervous tick.
Let's check out some of the videos and messages people have already sent us. Let's also welcome our very own Terry Schwartz to talk with us about the outside world.
Hello, the outside world from the inside.
Oh, that's very poetic.
Oh,
so,
well, thank you.
I said you're bringing the tweets, but you brought them and I am now reading them. So
I brought them.
Synergy. So our first tweet comes from, well, there isn't a name there, so hopefully it's in the graphic of the tweet. At the Ultimate Spid. The Ultimate Spider-Man, who says that they hope to see Marvel's Spider-Man Miles Morales on PS5.
Okay.
Yeah.
PS5.
That's what I interpret.
Good news, it is coming to PS5, so that'll happen. I don't think it'll happen at Comic-Con this year, unfortunately, but we did just get a reveal knowing that it's happening in general, which I feel like is enough to tide us over for at least a month or so, maybe.
Yeah, and there's some little morsels of information in terms of, we got the box art semi-recently. It was either earlier this week or late last week. We found out about performance mode, which is the 4K 60 FPS on PS5. So they are being very generous with what they're letting us know. Akeem, I cut you off. What's up?
No, I was going to say the reason I'm very excited for this, which is the reason I'm sure a lot of people are excited for this, is the fact that you're finally granted the opportunity to fully experience what it's like to be Spider-Man outside of the Peter Parker experience, perspective and experience. I like to call it the triple Ps, though, Peter Parker perspective, because like the Spider-Verse is huge, and we already know what it's like to play as Peter Parker, to be Peter. We know his story. And I know like a lot of people they're going to mention like Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions and how there's like different Spider-Man in that particular game. But what I'm talking about is like, having a fully dedicated Spider-Man story, not necessarily related to Peter Parker, where you're able to play as a character that has unique abilities that are different from what we're kind of used to, and kind of seeing how that is implemented in a Spidey form. So yes, the ultimate spid, it's coming, and we're all excited for it.
I'll say the learning that this was good, that Spider-Man Miles Morales was going to be a PS5 launch title. Like, I already was going to buy the PS5, but that made it an immediate purchase for me. To your point, Akeem, I loved that, Spider-Man, the Insomniac game, like it really captured that experience of being Spider-Man and being Peter in that case. So knowing that Miles has this different set of abilities, I'm so excited to find out like how they can capture that kind of like visceral experience of playing that game, but feeling like that character, and knowing that like we're not too far away from that now. Time has no meaning anymore. I'm really excited to find out more about that. Maybe not at Comic-Con, but maybe at Gamescom next month.
Oh, what a wonderful plug.
Already jumping ahead to the next
but staying here in the present time, what time is it? I don't know.
Showtime.
Our next tweet comes from Chow Micah Ella, who says, I'm hoping Carol and Daryl become Facebook official. Akeem, I know that you are our resident The Walking Dead fan. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes. Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, Chow Makai Ella, no. And the reason I say this is because I'm gonna say she's still alive and Daryl's looking for her, and Carol's just looking for her. She's looking for some fulfillment elsewhere outside of being in a relationship.
I know. Well, listen, they already had their misdirect with Ezekiel, right? They had their good little time together. I'm with Chow Micah Ella. I am in the Carol, that's Daryl and Carol, different spelling, long game. I've been shipping these characters since like the beginning as well. They had such good chemistry, and like I get it. It feels like it's one of those things that the writers, the showrunners, maybe the actors themselves just won't give us, but those characters are so good together. They have such a special relationship. It's like, it's literally been 10 seasons and they have not had anything more than these little moments over the years. But I still hold out hope. They're two of the longest running characters on the show. They do have such a special relationship. So, maybe season 10 finale, if that we get that in the near future, that'll be our moment. Ciao, Micah Ella.
Alrighty, Terry, I feel the passion in your voice. I am completely agnostic to what happens with Daryl, but I am all of a sudden I'm wanting some Carol spelled differently as well. So you've convinced me. Our final tweet comes from Azamat Marat, who say that they would like to see, quote, Mortal Kombat trailer and poster. Ooh, they have quite the wish list. That wasn't part of the tweet. This is now part of the tweet, what I'm saying after these words. Godzilla versus Kong trailer and news about Tomb Raider 2. So before we talk about anything else, because I'm speaking, I would like to say that I loved the Tomb Raider movie. I do not care what anybody else says. Maybe want to do pull-ups and fight people, even if the film was maybe a little messy. But I would love to hear more about Tomb Raider 2. Let's go rapid fire because we're almost out of time. Akeem, any comments on this tweet?
Godzilla versus King Kong. I'm looking forward to that. I want to see that, especially after the 1962 film ended weirdly. They fell off a cliff and one of them died. I'm not going to spoil it for anyone. I didn't see that 62 film, but I'm looking forward to this one. This one's going to be an epic battle.
And that concept art or leaked art that just came out about it looks amazing. I don't know if we'll get these at Comic-Con, but hopefully that means that we'll get something in the near future. And Mortal Kombat movie. I know it finished filming earlier this year, I guess. Obviously, a little uncertain times with the coronavirus and everything happening, but it's supposed to be coming out next year. I hope that isn't delayed too much because I'm really excited about that movie. I can't wait to see more.
I'm also excited about, you weren't talking about it, but Godzilla versus Kong. They're so large and they're animal
You're just
sort
still
of
thinking
creatures.
about those big chunky boys.
Those big
fighting each other.
Well, thank you so much, Tara. This is a ton of fun. It is only day one of Comic-Con at Home, and there are tons more panels, interviews, reviews, and lots more happening through Sunday. And you can get it all right here on IGN, or by checking out the IGN channel on your Samsung TV Plus, or on Plex or Pluto, another triple P. And don't forget to follow IGN on TikTok and Twitter to join our hashtag games and challenges. Akeem, what's happening tomorrow?
Well, at 1 p.m., we have the panel for the Amazon original series Utopia, which is hopefully giving us a glimpse at a better tomorrow. And at 2, we got school back in session for the New Mutants panel. Hopefully, it won't be postponed again, that school session. Then at 3, if you prefer your superheroes, a little bit more bitter and twisted, well, the boys are back in town and are having their panel, giving you an idea what sorts of bad behavior is in store for the second season of Amazon's hit series.
Every time we say the boys are back, I sing that song in my head. I don't want to sing
Same.
it because I don't know.
Same.
I don't think it's allowed. I'm afraid we'll get copyright
That's why I
strike.
didn't do it. Yeah,
Right?
we get
I'm thinking
stricken or
ahead.
whatever.
But stick around because right now it is time for a very special Comic-Con at Home edition of Up at Noon Live at 5. 5. I added the last part, featuring 2 exclusive interviews about Yakuza Like a Dragon, plus some more surprises, along with Max and Brian's usual nonsense.
Yes, all their nonsense. Now, from all of us at home, thanks for watching Comic-Con at Home, live on IGN's home page, or YouTube, or whatever it is. We'll see you all tomorrow. San Diego Comic-Con at Home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show.
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa.
News, games, and more is IGN's live news show every day of the week that covers all the day's news about games, movies, comics, and of course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find us on youtube.com/IGN and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
The next generation of video gaming is on the horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch 2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode.
Still using those tiny phones and tablets to watch IGN? Give your eyeballs a rest because IGN has moved to your living room. Get first looks and in-depth reviews of the most talked about titles.
Thank you so much for chatting with me. It's a pleasure to be here.
And take a front row seat to the biggest events of the year. Tune in on your Samsung TV Plus, Pluto, and Plex, and take a load off. Tune in to IGN 1.
Hey, happy Comic-Con. It's Comic-Con, baby. Hello and welcome to a very special Comic-Con at Home episode of Up at Noon at 5, brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon. I'm your host, Brian Altano.
And I am the rival host, Max Scoville. Up at Noon at 5 is IGN's premier off-topic comedy variety show, which is usually just an excuse for us to mess around and talk about stuff we're genuinely really passionate about. It's also not really a secret that I'm kind of IGN's resident Yakuza fanboy. So I'm pretty happy that our goofy little show is sponsored by the next entry in the series, in all honesty.
Max, what is going on with our costumes? Because you've played about 100 hours more of Yakuza than I have, but
yeah,
you did arrange for me to get into this ornate outfit, so let's talk about it.
What we're doing here is called hazing. I'm wearing the suit that I actually got made to dress up like Kazuma Kiryu, who's the sort of the hero of the last 7 Yakuza games. The new one has a brand new protagonist, so it's a great jumping on point for anybody. And you are dressed as Goro Majima, who's sort of Kiryu's longtime on and off sort of rival. They fight constantly, but they're also friends. They'll go do karaoke together. It's great. It's really, you learn so many great lessons about just friendship, but also fashion. I genuinely realized we should have like a snakeskin jacket for you, but this kind of came together last minute, so we're doing what we can.
We based it on what Amazon could get in time, and Amazon couldn't deliver their shirt, so I did go to one of the only places in San Francisco that still does tattoos and get this arranged entirely. So this is permanent, and that is my dedication to you, Max, to promise that I will crush through every single one of these games. Speaking of which, Yakuza Like a Dragon is an all-new installment launching later this year on Xbox Series X, Xbox One, Windows 10, PS4, PS5, and Steam, so there's a good chance you own something that can play it. And if you're getting a next-gen console, there's an upgrade path planned for both platforms, smart delivery on Xbox Series X, and more details coming for PS5. I feel like I did a good job reading all that, considering I only have one working eye.
You're doing good. It was also announced today that Like a Dragon is getting a full English dialogue track with a great cast, including the legendary George Takei. And I got a chance to speak with George Takei about his role, as well as 2 of the head guys working on the Yakuza series, executive director Toshiro Nagoshi and chief producer Masayoshi Yokoyama. That is coming up in a little bit.
Yep. We have a huge show planned for Yakuza for the next hour. But first, a friendly reminder that tomorrow is a massive day for everyone, video gamers, nerds, comic book fans, everything. Microsoft's Xbox Game Showcase kicks off at 9 a.m. Pacific and basically rolls straight into our Comic-Con at home coverage, which, if you're just paying attention, will be going for the next 5 days.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. We're going to be streaming panels, as you can see. There's Star Trek on CBS. There's also Marvel's The New Mutants, and then there's Amazon's The Boys. Also, apparently it's Bugs Bunny's 80th birthday, so that I guess he's doing some Bugs Bunny stuff, which is good. Yeah.
Yeah, we should have planned more. I hope he gets some fun presents, like maybe like an exploding cigar or a portable hole. There's a lot to work with. I mean, what do you get for the bunny that has everything? Anyway, as you might have guessed, my ridiculous getup, it wouldn't be Comic-Con without cosplay. So all day tomorrow, you can show off what you're dressing up as for Comic-Con at home with the hashtag best cosplay on TikTok. Be sure to follow IGN on TikTok while you're at it. You can also tweet at us with the hashtag IGN Comic Con, and your tweet might even show up later on the stream, and you'll be famous, which is great.
Now let's talk a little bit of Yakuza. We're going to be doing a lot of that, and if you're a stranger to the series, we're also going to do some kind of basic primers to get you on board. And like they literally gave me a chance to talk about my favorite video game series for an entire episode of my weird show that I do with my best friend. Like, why would you not go for that?
It's a good time to be alive.
Yeah, Yakuza Like a Dragon dropped a brand new trailer this morning, along with the announcement that it's getting the full English voice track. Let's take a look.
Everyone has a certain skill they bring to the table. Some people are like you, charging in head first without a thought. Let me make it up to you. Others cover your ass.
Stop right there! I'll buy you some time.
And some are better at cracking the whip.
I'm Sayako.
Well, this just got complicated.
We're risking our lives for a measly 5,000 yen.
Chill out, man. We're probably not gonna die.
Let's get started, shall we? How about we don't?
Let's go! To the heroes of tomorrow.
Whoa. Wow. Nice. Must.
Hey, how's it going?
Oh, this is going to be fun, huh?
Hi there, I'm KG Tang.
and I'm so excited to announce my role as Ichiban Kasuga in Yakuza Like a Dragon. But I'm also super excited to introduce my friend here.
Hello, my name is George Takei, and I'll be playing the role of Masumi Arakawa.
I'm a huge fan of the series, and I couldn't be more honored to lend my voice to the official English VO. I also couldn't be more honored to be working alongside such an amazing cast, including the great George Takei.
Oh, you're too kind, KG. I can't wait for the world to hear our voices in the English release of Yakuza Like a Dragon.
And we are back. That game looks awesome. If you're just tuning in, thank you for watching Up at Noon live at Comic-Con at Home on IGN. We are streaming live on YouTube, Twitch. We are on TikTok, a million other places. TikToks are available in stores right now if your breath is bad, so go check that out too. I want to shout out a quick comment that we got from Darth Lannister on YouTube. He said, just tuned in. Where is Max and Brian? No idea. Couldn't tell you. They're not here. No, I don't. Yeah. They're hiding under parking cones or in sewers or something. What's coming up? So I got a chance to chat with George Takei, which is one of the most like Comic-Con things you can do. I actually did that with him literally last year. But this year I talked to him about his role in Yakuza Like a Dragon. Before we show you that, here is an exclusive behind-the-scenes clip.
Hey, a new century is about to start, and I know you don't want to spend the first week lying in a hospital bed. Get out of here before an old man has to crack some skulls.
I'm George Takei, and I play Masumi Arakawa. Arakawa is a committed member of the Yakuza, but he retains his humanity. He recognizes something in this young street urchin, Ichiban, and he makes a painful and costly self-sacrifice in order to save this young man, and he develops a paternal love for him. The Yakuza life is very constrained and rigid and hard and fast. And that's what makes Arakawa unusual, in that he's able to not completely become that.
Ichi, would you be willing to take his place?
The relationship between Arakawa and Ichiban is a paternalistic one. He's brought this young man who's not his son and grooms him to be a good member of the Yakuza. I have a horrific and unjust and unforgettable childhood experience, the imprisonment by my own country because of Japan's bombing of Pearl Harbor. And I saw my parents go through incredible anguish, but also their determination to get back on their feet and give their children a life. I have that personal life history, and I wanted to bring a little bit of that into the humanity that I found in Arakawa.
That's nice, that's nice.
And welcome back to IGN's Up at Noon live at Comic-Con at Home. I'm Brian Altano. That's Max Scoville. Max, George Takei is great, isn't he? He's just the best.
He's a legend. He's wonderful. As I mentioned, we had him on our Comic-Con live show last year, which we, didn't do it from our homes. We did it from Comic-Con, like used to in the olden days. And he was just he was super pleasant. I remember he complimented our coffee table. And I was like, that's so sweet of you. And I wanted to talk to him about the coffee table, but it turned out it was a rental. It wasn't even ours. And I thought it was kind of so-so. But he was very sweet. He was a very, very nice man.
I just love him. Hey, do you think we can watch another George Takei video, even through one eye?
You know what? I think we can. We have another interview with George Takei about his role in Yakuza Like a Dragon. Let's take a look. Later this year, the long-running Yakuza series gets another massive installment with Yakuza Like a Dragon, and for the first time since the very first Yakuza game on PlayStation 2, this one is getting a full English language track with a star-studded cast led by none other than the legendary George Takei, who's joining me right now. George, thank you for coming by.
Good to see you. Well, live long and prosper.
The Yakuza games are, this is a long-running series, has been going on for ages. It's got to be something of a daunting task to jump into this series. Can you tell me a little bit about sort of how you were approached for the part
and what was most appealing about it, and really just what drew you to the character?
Well, my agent called and said, I've got an exciting project for you. It's about the Yakuza. And I said, oh, that sounds fascinating. What's it all about? And he said, well, it's a game. And he knows that I'm not a gamer. And so I said, oh, that means I can't do it because I don't know how to game. But he said, no, they want you for your voice and your dubbing background. Just think of it as another piece of drama. And so I said, okay, if that's it, if I don't have to memorize a new, different world of gaming, then fine, I can do that. And that's how I wound up with this fascinating and really impressive project that goes in depth into the very tightly closed world of the Yakuza.
Now, you play a character who's Masumi Arakawa, who's sort of a mentor figure to the main protagonist of the game. Can you tell us a little bit about the character and sort of how you really sort of embrace that role?
Arakawa was born into poverty. Usually those that get involved in the Yakuza world are people that come from a background of poverty. And he rises, and he's a mature man now. He's lived through a lot of Yakuza experience. He's a composed man. He is completely a member of the Yakuza family community, and he recruits a young man that he thinks will be a good member of a useful member of the Yakuza family. He encounters him at a point of great distress for him, and he himself makes a great physical sacrifice. My very first gig when I was a young teenager, I got hired to dub in English dialogue onto a Japanese science fiction film called Rodan. And so I began my career doing that. And here I am still doing the same thing. But this one, because it's animated, it's not as demanding as my very first dubbing gig was, where I had to lip sync on close-ups. With the animated nature of this film, it's you don't have that lip syncing challenge. Just getting the dialogue in while the lips are moving, and it doesn't have to sync with the lip. So it was a much easier work than the very first challenging gig that I had more than 6 decades ago. I've been in this game.
I was gonna ask about this. That was pre Star Trek. This was one of your very earliest gigs, and I feel like both sort of the technology behind dubbing, but also the popularity and reception of Japanese media in the West has changed. I wanted to kind of hear your perspective on sort of what it's like seeing how localization has evolved over the years.
Well, what really impressed me is the depth that they go into in telling a Yakuza story in this gaming form. It's a very esoteric, very closed off, very demanding society, Yakuza is. Think of the mafia with all its codes of honor and loyalty and fealty to the upper members of that society, and that in Japanese. Sort of like if you also know something about the samurai culture, it's the extension of the samurai culture in contemporary times, but it is severely demanding. And once you commit to it, it's a total life commitment. And yet, within all the rigid requirements and commitment that you make to that society, that humanity, that compassion in that core being is what comes out in the story of Arakawa's relationship with Ichiban.
Now, for a lot of people, I think especially right now that no one can really travel anywhere, the Yakuza games are a phenomenal way of sort of getting to immerse oneself in Japanese culture and sort of, virtually visit Japan. As a Japanese American who's very familiar with Japanese culture, is there anything, aside from the sort of complexities of the samurai Yakuza code that really sort of jumped out at you in how the story is told, or sort of how the characters interact with each other?
It's the human relationships. Despite these codes, there is a unique and singular relationship between Arakawa and Ichiban, and how they face some of the challenges where the human compassion comes into conflict, and how they overcome that or don't overcome that is the great drama in this, I think. Think
Wonderful.
of the Godfathers, the family relationship, the literal blood family relationship. In this case, Arakawa's relationship with Ichiban is not blood, but in many ways, it's stronger than a father and son, a blood relationship. And it's the Godfather and the kind of sacrifices of the family, literal blood family, that one has to make. It's that kind of almost inhuman human relationship that contributes to the drama and the poignance of this story.
Well, George, I am dying to see your performance firsthand later this year when Yakuza comes out on Xbox One, PS4, Xbox Series X, and PlayStation 5. And George, it's a pleasure chatting with you. Love your work, and I'm still happy to see you out there doing wonderful new roles like this. Thank you so much for your time.
Live long and prosper.
And we're back. Max, I never realized you could do that. Not a lot of people can do that. Some people
Took
can't.
a lot
do
of practice. I was just actually thinking, I think I probably offended somebody by not, I think you're not supposed to tuck your thumb in or something.
That. Oh, you have to keep it out?
Like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it's one of those things. I know I get mad at people who do who do that, which is like sign language for love instead of that, which is what Ronnie James Dio does. But anyway.
Anyway, speaking of sign language for love, that's enough of that. We're going to take a quick break, but when we get back, more Yakuza, so stick around.
San Diego Comic-Con at Home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
The next generation of video gaming is on the horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch 2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode. Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
Everybody loves watching a speedrun of their favorite game. But what if you got the opportunity to peek into the minds of the developers while they watch their games getting completely wrecked? That's exactly what happens in every episode of Game Devs React to Speedruns.
You can do that. Oh my god!
We invite you to ride along with the developers as they react to, question, and enjoy some of the most skilled players exploiting and speeding through a game it took years of their life to create. Join us every Saturday for a new episode.
Hey there! Do you have opinions on games, movies, TV, or other weird stuff on the internet? You can take part in our new show, Power Ranking, where you can vote on all your favorite things on the internet. Do it now! Do it! Just go! Vote! Go vote!
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show!
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa!
Comic-Con at Home, Yakuza Like a Dragon themed episode of Up at Noon, live at 5. That's a title. Max, you've been a pretty ride or die for the Yakuza games for a while now. Anybody who's listened to a podcast beyond, or like literally anytime you've been in front of a camera or a microphone, can vouch for that. I don't think you've gone a day without talking about the series since I've known you, and that's like for like 10 or 11 years now. At a glance, it's a bunch of sort of operatic, serious stories about Japan's criminal underworld, and you beat up a lot of dudes in the street, but there's so much else going on in this series, right, Max?
That's right, Brian. But no, seriously, I want to talk about this for a second. I think like a lot of people sort of you see like the weird gifs online, and it's like some sort of goofy over the top action, and then you see maybe some like really dramatic cutscenes, and then there's a lot of people just sort of fighting in the streets, and there's a bunch of mini games thrown in there. What I really love about it is that like they're essentially like they're kind of variety games in that sense, and also like I don't know. We talk about like realism in games, but like I don't think I know anybody, or I really don't want to know anybody who doesn't have interests, or like who doesn't like to do stuff for fun. Like even the most badass, hardened, tough guys, like you'd think that like, well, right, what's your hobby? Like, what do you do in your spare time? So this series has done a really good job of like throwing in sort of like little games on the side, like historically in the you play as Kazuma Kiryu, and like he'll sometimes wind up playing baseball or going spear fishing, or maybe he's managing a hostess club, or maybe he's doing stuff that's way weirder than that. And it's like, I was thinking about this, the scene in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood where Brad Pitt is just feeding his dog?
Yeah.
Like, I love that scene because I feel like that adds a lot to him as a character. Like, he's a badass stuntman by day, but then he goes home and he makes macaroni and cheese and he hangs out with his dog and he watches TV. And there's this kind of like this whole layer to sort of who he is as a character. And I like that. I don't know. It's almost unusual that we get games that have like, it's not so much that they're just mini games there for the player. It's almost like these are the this is the main character's hobbies. This is what this character is doing for fun. I mean, we got Geralt playing Gwent in The Witcher, which was sort of funny because like the fate of the land held stood in the balance or whatever. But in Yakuza, it's like it's wonderful how they'll take either the mundane or the completely enjoyable and like really just gamify. Like there's a whole mini game about calming a baby down, which by the way was before Death Stranding. Here's some karaoke. You got to check that out.
Which is super fun. I was laughing absurdly hard at this. Karaoke is obviously incredibly popular all over the world, but the Yakuza version is really sort of interesting because from a gameplay perspective, it's getting you to press a bunch of buttons on your controller that you don't usually press in synchronicity, especially when the songs start really ramping up and you're just hopping all around your PS4 or Xbox controller. There's also all sorts of goofy stuff that happens here, like background characters going nuts, like the bartender clapping and cheering, and this weird clip art animals will pop up, and like you were saying before, like the better you play, the more stuff that starts to happen here, and you don't really ever feel like you're punished too hard on it, which I really dig about this game.
No, I mean it's also like if you don't want to mess with that, like you don't have to, but like it totally nails that. Like the fun of karaoke is going out and getting drunk and singing with your friends in like a small room that you rented, but like in Yakuza it's a full-fledged rhythm game that if you get really good at it, it totally nails that, like that surreal, like those like weird stock video backgrounds that show up. There's also like there's disco dancing in Yakuza 0, like, which is I feel like they could have done just a simple sort of quick time event thing, but instead it's this whole full-fledged sort of rhythm game, which I'm playing here. I'm terrible at it, but even when you really suck, it kind of like it's still pretty funny. Like you just start doing the gorilla like a dope, and then like everyone just kind of like just like walk off like embarrassed. Yeah, like the series has this like the past 7 games basically have all these like weird little tidbits thrown in and out, and like you still get that super serious, crazy, big, massive story, but then there's all these little kind of pockets that you get to go explore and little things you get to go check out. And I don't know, that's sort of like, for instance, how many like there's very few video games where players go to the bathroom, right? And there's even less where that's fully gamified. But in Yakuza, this is such a weird this was in Yakuza 6, The Song of Life, where there are these
Milky
things.
Nose.
Yeah, this is a mini game called Toilets, which is an actual thing that Sega makes in Japan, which is a arcade urinal that you pee into to play, and it's to keep you from peeing every which way. It's to have you actually aim where you're going. But they made it a mini game, so it's I don't know, it's like an emulation of an arcade game practically. And then if you want to play regular arcade games, they got like Virtua Fighter outside of the bathroom, obviously.
I'm getting a call from Comic-Con right now, and they're saying that this is the world record of the fastest anyone has ever said arcade urinal in a Comic-Con live show. So this is great. This is opening day, and we've already broken the record. So great stuff, Max.
Yeah, but I mean, that's the sort of the stuff that keeps me around. Like, I'll get, I think if you just beat me over the head with something that's overly serious, I'll be like, if it's all consistently serious, I don't want it anymore. And if it's all too silly all the time, you got to have that balance. And I don't know, the Yakuza games have like really hooked me because they do that. Like, if you want like some serious dramatic ass kicking, you go do that. But if you want to, I don't know, go to an 80s telephone club and do a weird quick time event to answer the phone and hope that maybe you get to talk to a cute girl, but then you have to do this weird thing where it's like dialogue options, but it's also a shooting game that it's just like, I don't know, you see that and you're like, what is going on here? There's even like it, and it's again like this is a game set in the sort of red light district, so there's a whole mini game of like boudoir photography, which is like it's like choosing dialogue options while under a time limit, so you're trying to like form coherent sentences while talking to a cute girl. There's one where you're in like a cam chat and you have to like hit button combos to type coherent sentences, and he's typing like, and it's just, I don't know, it's not the kind of stuff you'd expect from what's otherwise like a serious and fairly grounded franchise. So
yeah,
I don't know. Yeah.
I love watching streamers play this game because they will get like sad or cry about very specific elements and story beats and stuff like that. But then a second later, you're doing something like this, like hand collecting.
And this is all stuff from the new one, Like a Dragon, and it's got I don't even know how, like, what is going, like, this is all like the crazy over the top stuff. It'll make sense in context, like that it will exist in this universe. You're gonna, I guess, fight a crane. So like I don't know, what like, but yeah, the fact that they're gamifying things like can collecting. They've added kart racing because why the hell not? And it's just, again, you're still going to get that over dramatic, like, that very heavy, serious story. But if you get tired of it, you can go. There's a mini game about trying to stay awake in the movies, where you have to like ward off sleep demons. Like and then do tests. It's awesome.
And also in conjunction with all the sort of like classic Sega arcade games that kind of sneak their way into these things are really, really cool, because it's sort of this, it's not only a celebration of like Sega as a company, but also sort of just the variety of excursions and fun stuff you can do in Japan in general. Like there's it also feels sort of like a fun thing to do now. I find myself connecting more and more with like kind of big open world games and fun things like this, where there's a million different activities to do, because I'm limited with the amount of activities that I can do now. And so, it's obviously been a weird year, but video games have kept us sane. So I mean, something we've been talking a lot about this year, Max, you and I specifically, since we both love traveling, we traveled a ton together last year, is actually visiting other places. Normally we'd be doing this show in San Diego right now, which is a beautiful city, and we always have a great time there, but obviously 2020 has kind of grounded everyone, and so it's been difficult to do that. But thankfully video games offer some of that experience in a virtual sense, and I think that a game like Yakuza, or a series like Yakuza, gives us an opportunity to feel like we're traveling somewhere, or maybe going to some place we wanted to go to or couldn't go to, or have been to before, and walk around and interact.
I mean, I don't know, I think there's that compulsive need as gamers to like jump into a massive open world and just like, complete the objectives and do the stuff and, take out the outposts and like kill the boss or whatever. But like, there's also like, I don't know, what about just exploring? I don't know. Like I actually don't know. Have you been to Osaka? I can't remember.
No, I haven't.
So yeah, like Osaka is, I think my favorite city. Like we've both been to Tokyo a couple times, which is awesome. But like, everyone was always like, you gotta go to Osaka. It's like kooky and fun and a great time. And like, I was like, I don't know, Tokyo is pretty rad. And I went to Osaka and I was like, oh wow, it's just slightly different energy. It's like a little, but I'd explored it in Yakuza ahead of time. Like I'd poked around because it shows up in a few of the games, and I actually knew my way around some of the neighborhoods. Like I kind of had my bearings already, because these games are like, they might have like weird over the top stuff, like, beating a guy near senseless with a parking cone in the middle of the street. You probably shouldn't do that anywhere, let alone in Japan. But there's also this like wonderful dedication to like actually nailing these specific neighborhoods. You've had your weird misadventures in Golden Guy in Kabukicho.
Yeah, so I've spent probably, I think collectively about a month in Japan, and mostly in Tokyo and Golden Gai, Shinjuku, Harajuku, just all over the place, Roppongi. And so I think what this game really nails is sort of that feeling of wonder and excitement you get of walking down a street that is populated with people and lights, but also a lot of the sort of simple cultural things that we not necessarily take for granted here, but are just different in Japan. And so you appreciate them for what they are. The vending machines on the streets everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
The laundromats are a little bit different. The restaurants are a little more pronounced in their signage and stuff like that. And so, I'm always thinking about the next time I want to go back to Japan because I miss it a lot and I have a great time there. But obviously things are different right now, but I really appreciate that I can play a game series like this and walk around and do something different.
It's weird that we get like there's a whole travel channel, there's a Food Network, but like we don't really see that in games, like typically it's sort of like there'll be an open world game, but I think as far as like virtual tourism goes, like Yakuza comes pretty close where you can visit this exact existing place and like there's an entire, gamified thing of doing whiskey tasting or trying different restaurants. And, you're like, if you don't know what the hell some dish is or like, what the flavor profile of a 12-year-old scotch is, like this is a game that's sort of like, well, I guess that's a good way of sort of holding you over until you get to actually go, check a place out in real life.
Yeah,
I hope we get to travel again for real at some point, but
me too.
In the meantime,
yeah. In the meantime, you can check out Club Sega in the game, which is really awesome because they have those all over Japan, and they're a really good time. Max and I obviously want to keep doing the show. We want to keep doing the show and talking about Yakuza and all the other stuff. We also have some collectibles, but we do need to take a very quick break. So Up at Noon from Comic-Con, we'll be right back after this.
San Diego Comic-Con at Home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show!
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa! News, games, and more is IGN's live news show every day of the week that covers all the day's news about games, movies, comics, and of course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. See you there.
Hey there! Do you have opinions on games, movies, TV, or other weird stuff on the internet? You can take part in our new show, Power Ranking, where you can vote on all your favorite things on the internet. Do it now! Do it! Just go! Vote! Go vote!
The next generation of video gaming is on the horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch 2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode.
Everybody loves watching a speed run of their favorite game. But what if you got the opportunity to peek into the minds of the developers while they watch their games getting completely wrecked? That's exactly what happens in every episode of Game Devs React to speedruns.
You can do that. Oh my god!
We invite you to ride along with the developers as they react to, question, and enjoy some of the most skilled players exploiting and speeding through a game it took years of their life to create. Join us every Saturday for a new episode.
And welcome back to Up at Noon, live at 5, live at Comic-Con, at home, live at IGN, at 5, at home, at noon, live, the #1 most live show happening right now on this specific channel. If you're watching this channel live in your home. We did it, ladies and gentlemen. We did it. A huge round of applause for us here, the #1 show that you're watching right now live.
It's such a thrill, Brian. I've never won anything before, especially anything so specific. Anyway, speaking of exciting, next up, I'm sitting down with some of the fine folks who are working on the brand new Yakuza game to get them to spill all the secrets that they are allowed to spill and that they wanted to tell me. I tried, but they're keeping those secrets. Anyway, let's check it out.
Later this year, Yakuza fans and newcomers to the Yakuza series are in for a treat with Yakuza Like a Dragon. Joining me now to discuss it are Yakuza series executive director Nagoshi-san and Yakuza series chief producer Yokoyama-san and Amelia, who will be translating. Gentlemen, madam, thank you for joining me. Now, on the subject of translation and localization, this is the first Yakuza game since the original Yakuza on PlayStation 1 to get a full English dub. And on top of that, it's also getting a multi-platform launch. So it seems like it's in a really good position to attract a lot of newcomers to the series and get a lot of new fans on board. I was wondering if you could talk a bit about what the game itself is doing to kind of onboard new players to the world of Yakuza.
プレイステーションというハードを中心に、展開してきたシリーズだったんですけれど、今回大きく、Xbox シリーズであるとか、ハードが広がっているので、特に新しい人たちにこのタイトルを広くプレイしてほしいと思っています。で、シリーズファンの方だったら、ご存知かもしれませんが、今回、主人公が実は変更されていまして、春日一番という新しい、シリーズの顔が登場させていますので、新たな気持ちで、これまでの予備知識なく、好きなだけ遊んでいただくことができる、ちょうどいいタイトルに仕上がっていると思いますので、そこら辺はすごく作り手としても期待しているところです。
Wonderful. Now, I wanted to talk about Ichiban Kasuga because he's an exciting new character. I'm dying to get to know him. I feel like I know Kiryu very well at this point. Pretty close with Majima, but this is a brand new character to me. And I was curious, as creators, where did the character come from, and sort of how do you feel he differs from previous Yakuza protagonists? And sort of how has his character evolved over the course of the development of Like a Dragon?
いや、別にいや、こういう感じでやるんですよ。で、大丈夫。いや、これは答えようか。まずですね、旧作ファンの方は昔出てたキャラクターがすごく気になるとは思うんですけど、そのキャラクターたちも要所要所では登場してきますし、そういう意味では旧作のファンの方も安心して遊んでいただける部分もあると思いますけど、何より今回は、新しい主人公になって、その新しい主人公の新しい魅力に触れてもらうことが我々は一番の願いですし、ただ桐生とある意味で正反対の性格というか、キャラクターを作ったことによって全く違う龍が如くになるんじゃないかっていう心配もしてるプレイヤーも多いと思うんですけど、龍が如くチームが作っている以上はですね、その龍が如くという作品にふさわしい中身には必ずなってますから、どちらにしても安心して、十分楽しんでもらえる作品になっているとは思います。ついでに言うと、龍が如くのシリーズが、桐生のシリーズが長かったので、そこでもっと違う主人公の話が作れたらいいなっていう願いも僕自身もチームの方もあったりしたので、逆に今まで桐生ではできなかったドラマとか、桐生では作り得なかったテイストっていうのを今回思い切ってぶつけることができた分、そういう15年間分のストレスを発散できたというか、そういう部分も含めて魅力的な作品だったと思います。
Beautiful. The Yakuza series has had a huge surge of popularity in the West over the last few years. Aside from it just being a really good series of video games, did you have any ideas of sort of what led to this, or what allowed this to happen? Because there was, the first game came out with an English dub, and then it sort of seemed like it kind of went away for a little bit, and then it came back with Zero, and just everyone got really excited about it. And I was interested if you had any thoughts on what led to that.
正直言うと、僕らも海外で、のユーザーに理解して売れてほしいなっていう願いはあったんですけど、やっぱり僕らが作ってるものって欧米のスタジオのいわゆるメガトレンドなゲームとはちょっとやっぱりテイストは違うと思うんですね。やっぱグローバルに通用するとはいえグローバルニッチなものを作ってる部分もあるので、やはり癖も強いと思うんですよ。ただそれはそれとしてやはり、王道なものを楽しむユーザーも多い中で、 先日そのアカデミー賞もとうとう韓国の作品がグランプリを取ったような時代にもなった中で、いろんな今オンラインの時代が始まったわけじゃないです。もうだいぶ時間が経ってますけど、いろんな国のいろんなテイストの作品を楽しむということに世界中の人がもうだいぶ慣れてきたというか、そういうものを求める声が日増しに強くなってきた結果が、こういうゲームの世界にも反映してきたんじゃないかなっていう気はします。龍が如くという作品がこう、映画界のパラサイトのような存在にゲームとしてなれれば一番嬉しいなと思います。
I love it. Well, was there anything else you wanted to add about Yakuza Like a Dragon?
日本のゲームクリエイターと欧米のゲームクリエイターと、ゲームを愛して作っているっていうことは同じなんですけど、やはりドラマを作ったりする中で、特に人間ドラマを作る中では、やはりこう、フォーカスしているポイントがちょっと違うと思うんですよね。で、その違いがやはり僕はむしろ面白くて、そこに多分人種を超えた気づきみたいなものが多分僕はあると思ってるんですよ。で、それが、単にユニークだなっていうことで終わるんではなくて、今まで気づかなかった他の、コミックや映画では気づかなかった気づきみたいなものが新しい感動を呼んでくれるきっかけになってくれることも僕は十分あり得ると思うので、龍が如くという作品を通じてですね、またこの新シリーズを通じて、そういう体験をしていただけたら、いっぱい幸せかなと思います。
Wonderful. Well, Nagoshi-san, Yokoyama-san, thank you so much for your time. Amelia, thank you for translating. I am dying to get my hands on Yakuza Like a Dragon later this year. And you watching at home, you have no excuse not to play it. It's coming to everything. It's PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, PC. It's on everything. It's got an English sub, it's got Japanese audio, it's got subtitles. Figure it out. Play Yakuza, please. I beg of you. Thank you so much.
And we are back. Max, good job back there.
I did what I could.
Up at noon at 5 at Comic-Con at home. We'll be right back after this very quick break. So please stick around because we want to hang out and show you some toys.
San Diego Comic-Con at home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon.
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show!
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa!
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
News, games, and more is IGN's live news show every day of the week that covers all the day's news about games, movies, comics, and of course more. This is our daily live show that takes a rotating cast of IGN talent, going over all the latest news of the day while taking live questions and comments from chat. We're live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, and you can find us on youtube.com/IGN and twitch.tv/IGN. See you there.
If you're not following IGN on social media, what are you waiting for? We're constantly updating our feeds to bring you the latest news, gameplay, custom original content, the best user-generated videos and art, memes, and a whole lot more. Be part of the conversation throughout the year. Follow IGN on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, and Snapchat.
All right, and we are back. This is Up at Noon at 5 at Comic-Con at home, a very Yakuza episode, which has been an absolute fun time because I get to wear an eye patch and read a teleprompter, so that's
How's that going for you?
It's good. I'm going off script a lot, and so I think that's the way it's supposed to go.
You raised an interesting point just while we were on the break there. You said, I wonder what my daughter's going to make of this, and honestly, you look like the alternate dimension horrible villain version of normal you.
Yeah, I mean, it's never too early to learn about, the worst thing your father could become if he had an eye patch, a beard, and grew hair. In just a little bit, we're going to take a look at some of this year's convention exclusive collectibles that we got our hands on a little early. But first, Yakuza is a video game series with 7, soon to be 8 mainline entries, and it's been around for almost 20 years. So surely it must have mountains of officially licensed collectibles for fans to fill their homes with, right, Max?
You would think so, but weirdly enough, it doesn't. But that made it very easy to pull together a quick sort of speed run of all the Yakuza collectibles that I'm aware that exist. There might be more of them out there, but here are 11 or however many of the coolest, weirdest, rarest Yakuza collectibles, which is not counting, collector's editions of the games, the stuff that comes in those, swag they give away at events, or like rare PSP spin-offs. But rapid fire really quick. Here are some of the Yakuza things that are out there. This is the 1/12 scale Figma action figure. We have talked about Figmas many times on the show before. They make all sorts of wonderful, Nintendo characters. They've got they got a bunch of them, but they make one of Kazuma Kiryu here, which is great. It has tons of articulation and accessories. This is the only thing on this list that I actually own, and it is because these got super stupid expensive really fast because I think they're like limited edition.
Right. Yeah,
and
these
they
are
also
some of the
made
best action figures you can buy. The accessories, articulation, paint, everything. Their little stands are great. This does he have it's like an energy shot?
Yeah, it's so that's like you'll be pounding those soon enough if you stick with 0. But like those are the various energy shots you chug in the game. Some of them charge up your health, some of them charge up your heat. But I like that they included that. Like we don't usually get action figures with like health items. And I think there's a deluxe version of this that came with a parking cone, which is a common, weapon. They also made here's some photos of me posing it. It's a good toy. I just wish that it wasn't so hard to track down because there is a counterpart. There is the Goro Majima version, which is it goes for like easily over $200 on eBay.
What?
Yeah, they're super hard to find. And yeah, that's a bummer because I want them to fight. I want these dolls to play with.
I'll come over and kick your ass if you want.
Yeah, that's fair. That works. They do have some sort of more recent ones. There is a company called Asmus, I think, which is doing these little guys called Cubits, which are kind of like limited articulation, little kind of chibi, mini figures here. There's
they're like
one of each
a
of
little
these guys.
which they can stand on their own, which is cool.
Yeah. I'm into it. I love that Kiryu's got his intense, like just kind of standing there version. And then Majima's just got his waving a knife around like a psychopath, like he does. And then this company also does these I think they're supposed to go for like $20. I think you can still track them down online for somewhere, under 50, which is, for import collectibles, not insane. But I mean, I'm not wild about little super deformed people. So, anyway, they also do, ultimate action figures, like super high end. These are not 12-inch or like 1/6 scale. They're like 8-inch figures, but they've got all sorts of bonus hands and cell phones and baseball bats and wristwatches and stuff like that.
I'll be honest, man, I love bonus hands.
Bonus hand. Who doesn't love a good bonus hand? These will run you probably, I don't know. It depends on if you can even find them. Maybe $150. Like I said, I went to Japan last year or 2 years ago, whenever the hell that was, and poked around to try to find any Yakuza stuff, and didn't really have any luck. I couldn't find it out there. But there is this Majima one here. He's got his little hard hat. He's got his megaphone. It's good stuff. But yeah, these are probably $150, which is for like a clothed figure pretty okay. Then there's this, which I found, which is this is a Synapse Majima PVC figure. This is the only thing on this list where they made a Majima, but they didn't make a Kiryu, which is like, okay, that's a bold move. He's got this removable snakeskin jacket. This one is like, I looked on eBay. There was one listed, and it was listed for like $1,000. I think it might have been a claw machine prize. Like, I don't know for sure on that, but it's definitely not an easy one to track down. And they're pretty pricey. There are these little guys. Actually, I lied. There's one of these I have on this list. There are these unofficial Yakuza hinge pins.
Those are great.
Those are on Etsy. Somebody picked one of these up for me at TwitchCon last year. They were just selling it at like a little booth. But the whole thing is in the Yakuza games, they just like the dudes like rip their shirts off when they fight because that's like, I don't know, that's what dudes do, I guess. But these are cute little pins. And I'm not really a pin guy, but I'm into it. And then finally, easily the weirdest thing on this list, they make officially licensed Yakuza cologne, which is available only at Don Quixote department stores in Japan.
That is amazing. That bottle art is incredible.
I wonder what it smells like.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, like, I feel like the Majima probably has like a much stronger, more aggressive odor. But I don't know. Like Kiryu's got this very serene kind of like, yeah. Anyway,
We'll
so
see.
there we have it.
Cologne's a weird flex in 2020 anyway because you don't really go anywhere. So
yeah, you can't smell anything on the.
It's good for yourself. Maybe we'll get some new merch to go alongside Yakuza Like a Dragon, which I'm very excited for. But Max,
you know what else is like a dragon? Godzilla.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got this Tamashii Nations Monster Arts Godzilla, this is confusing. This confused the hell out of me. I was like, are they sending me last year's leftovers? This is Godzilla 2019 as he appeared in the hit film Godzilla King of the Monsters, which came out in 2019, but all the packaging says Godzilla 2019. I was like, is it the 2019 exclusive? But no, this is this year's exclusive. This is from Bluefin Collectibles, sent this over. You can find this on p-bandai.com if you want to pre-order it. $88. It's got tons of points of articulation, but also it's a big chunky Godzilla, so you can really only get away with so much. And he's got this interchangeable jaw, which you can swap out with his atomic breath, which is, it just kind of looks like he might be barfing Four Loko. It kind of goes really either way.
Yeah, this is I would say one of the most edible looking Godzillas I've ever seen. This is very adorable what you did for
candy.
him.
Yeah,
Are those little like Japanese like eraser sets you get?
Yeah, they're almost to scale with the dolls, but then look at this. What if he was a rude boy and just ate all this big pile of rice?
This is a beautiful film you made. Oh my god!
Thank you. What a nice little movie. I'm entering in some festivals. I'm really hoping that comes together.
Yeah,
but anyway,
you should bring this over to Quibi and see what they're doing. They might take it. I like it a lot.
But yeah, you know what else? You know what else is kind of like a dragon is a
dinosaur.
Yeah, dinosaurs. We're talking about dinosaurs. So these guys got announced first thing this morning. McFarlane Toys, we've talked about many times on this show, have ventured into a kind of a new market, which is less mature collectors. This is a line that's for ages 6 and up. You might know Cygor as the cybernetic gorilla who fights Spawn back in the 90s. They have just unveiled these. They're coming out in August. They're currently Walmart exclusive. I don't know if this is a hit, if they'll take it elsewhere. I love them. I mean, maybe we have brain damage and we're just like giant 8-year-olds, but I think they're just like so freaking cool.
I mean, I think these are like the perfect thing between sort of like, like weird animal action figures and then the kind of like more kind of higher end stuff that, big adults like us collect. They're super cool. They don't have a ton of points of articulation, but they don't really need them because their sculpts are awesome and the paint's awesome, especially for a kid's toy. This giant gorilla is like honestly one of my favorite things. I'm so happy
it's such a cool toy.
Like I want to make him a permanent part of my set back there because I love him. There's also this snake, which is great. I compared them to a bunch of my
snake on the right. Yeah.
These are a bunch of my I have a toddler and this is a bunch of her garbage baby toys, and I wanted to compare them just to show you how cool Todd McFarlane's versions are, because the McFarlane toys totally eat all the baby toy versions.
Hell yeah.
These are much better.
We have a whole thing of these, or like a whole breakout package going up about these later on. I think tomorrow on our main Comic-Con at Home live show. We got a bunch of other collectibles sprinkled in there, but they sent you something. They sent you something horrible, didn't they? You got something. You got something very bad in the mail.
I got a very interesting thing in the mail recently. This is the 1984 Olympics Gremlin, and to explain that, it's a little difficult, but this is basically a brand new NECA convention exclusive Gremlin, which is based on a really obscure and 36-year-old newspaper ad that was promoting the original Steven Spielberg, Joe Dante Gremlins movie against the actual 1984 Summer Olympics. There's the ad right there.
Only 70s kids will remember this crazy newspaper ad.
And so NECA's been doing such a great job of just like really digging into like deep cut stuff. And I think they've gone through a lot of the Gremlins movies and they've made a lot of the figures, but they also have a lot of fun. So this is the Gremlin himself. It's basically Stripe with some new stuff like underwears that he's wearing right there, which is nice.
Man, I love the Gremlins films. I think 2 is perfect cinema. I don't need a Gremlins toy with panties. That's weird.
Good for you. Lucky for you, the panties do come off, so you can remove the panties, and then you can.
You can't say that on this. You can't say that kind of thing.
You can remove Stripe the Gremlins panties, and you can put them in all sorts of beautiful poses like this.
Don't do that. Don't. We gotta. We can't say these things.
I think it's fine. He also comes with a torch. He comes with, some fake hair, kind of like I have. Which you can pose, and it's great. And he's got these flippers too, which I think are just the cutest things. And a little sort of like a scuba mask. This is a deeply disturbing figure, but the paint's awesome. Articulation's really good. You can basically pose his ears, move his head, take it off. You can also close his mouth, open it. And I just really, really like this toy. It's super cool. Max, you have a bunch of these Gremlins.
I have one floating around here. I've got the one who has like a chainsaw and a skateboard, and I have the weird, like the older one who does like he's flashing, he's like exposing himself, and he's got like a cigarette and sunglasses. Just they're such wonderfully bad. They're good toys. They're just bad things to own because they say things about you if you have them displayed proudly. You know?
Now these figures will run you about $30, and they're available in Walmart stores or online starting tomorrow. You can head over to NECA.store.com starting tomorrow, or go to Walmart and you can get one of these horrible Olympian frog monsters in your hands too, and then pose it. Or you can take off the underwears and then just make a regular gremlin. It's a weird sentence.
We've got a bunch of other stuff happening tomorrow at 1 p.m. Pacific. We have got the panel for Utopia, Amazon's new original sci-fi show. That's followed up by Marvel's The New Mutants. And then at 3, Amazon's The Boys panel. We'll hopefully tease what's next in season 2. Those guys are a ton of fun. We got to talk to them again. I miss regular Comic-Con, but I'm glad we're doing it remotely.
Yeah, totally. Comic-Con at Home continues through Sunday. That's this Sunday. So right here on IGN or the IGN channel on your Samsung TV Plus. Plus, there's also Plex or Pluto. Those are things you can check this out on too. Plus Twitch, YouTube, everything else. Thank you all so much for joining us today.
Yeah, and huge thanks to you, Brian, for playing along with Dress Up and letting me just nerd out about Yakuza.
Yeah.
Thanks to our sponsor Sega and Yakuza Like a Dragon, which is out later this year. In the meantime, go check out Yakuza if you haven't. If you have Game Pass on Xbox, I believe Yakuza 0, Kiwami, and Kiwami 2 are all on Game Pass. They're regularly on sale on PC and PS4. Start with 0. It's a good time. Kiwami also works. 0 is longer and sillier and completely insane.
Yeah. And if this is your first Comic-Con or your 15th Comic-Con, thank you for celebrating with us, because we're really happy to be making this show. It's an honor to be here, and this is a blast. So in conclusion, Godzilla, dinosaurs, and snakes are all kind of like dragons, but gremlins are not really like dragons because they're more kind of like frogs, I guess. Or
that's
lizards.
That's true. Many things are like dragons, but not all of them. Not all of them so much.
Yes. This concludes our segments comparing things to dragons, presented by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon, out later this year on Xbox One, Series X, PS4, PS5, and PC.
Cool. I think we're done here for today. I think we also read one part of that twice, but I don't think anyone will be too mad about it.
No, it's okay.
Friendly reminder that before all the Comic-Con stuff starts tomorrow, we have got the big Xbox Series X game showcase from Microsoft that is happening at 9 a.m. Pacific, and we have a pre-show which I think starts at 8 a.m. So come hang out for that. Come check that out. And that's about all we're doing for today. I think we're going to call it a day. You can go scare your kid with your costume. I'm going to go upstairs and upset my wife because I drew all over my chin with her makeup.
Yeah, a huge thank you to our wives for lending us their eyeliner pencils. Mine said, just keep it, don't give it back. A few Comic-Con highlights for tomorrow. You already know about them.
We did it.
Stick around. We have so much coverage coming up all week long. So thank you for watching us here on Up at Noon Live. Tons of collectibles, tons of interviews, tons of panels. IGN's got your back all week long. So stick around and happy Comic-Con. I can take off the...
San Diego Comic-Con at Home is brought to you by Sega's Yakuza Like a Dragon. Still using those tiny phones and tablets to watch IGN? Give your eyeballs a rest, because IGN has moved to your living room. Get first looks and in-depth reviews of the most talked about titles.
Thank you so much for chatting with me.
Pleasure to be here.
And take a front row seat to the biggest events of the year. Tune in on your Samsung TV Plus, Pluto, and Flex, and take a load off. Tune in to IGN 1.
Not only is IGN the world's biggest media brand for games and entertainment, but we also have a team of some of the world's biggest fans of your favorite franchises. From breaking news and exclusives, never-before-seen looks at movies and games, to reviews, let's plays, and live streams, IGN brings you all the coverage you need, no matter where you are. Whether you're on IGN.com, the IGN app, YouTube, Facebook, or Snapchat, we've always got you covered. IGN, the #1 source for all games and entertainment fans worldwide.
Is there more?
This year, Comic-Con at Home is streaming to you on IGN, and now you can watch it unfold on TikTok.
I love this show!
Celebrity interviews, epic trailers, cosplay, collectibles, and unforgettable moments from the biggest show in entertainment can now be crammed right into the palm of your hand. Check out IGN's TikTok for today's Comic-Con at Home challenge.
Whoa!
The next generation of video gaming is on the horizon, and IGN is here to bring you the latest PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X news and analysis in our new weekly show, Next Gen Console Watch 2020. We'll bring on the experts to discuss and analyze all the latest developments around these new consoles. From frame rates, services, features, peripherals, and even all the new tech jargon, Next Gen Console Watch 2020 will keep you up to speed on everything leading up to the next generation of gaming. Join us every Friday for a new episode.
So okay guys, I think this is it. See you guys later on. Until then, take care. This is Baz, I am signing off.
Give meaning to some other issues and actions. And so,
what you want. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side. My love. But you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. You say you wanna cry, but you never do. Sugar, there's a reason why we lose. Let's have a bit of fun till I downfall. My love, if you feel like I do right now, don't say you're on the run to the other side.